Test, 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 test. Hello, hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well tonight. I already see some awesome activity in the chat. What's up, Darth Magog? What's up, Saria? Hope you guys have had a wonderful week. Sorry I missed you guys on Thursday. This week has been a good week overall, but has resulted in quite a bit of overtime work. Basically, one of the privileges of working from home, or one of the, I guess, like caveats or whatever of the privilege of working from home, is that it's relatively easy to kind of get like pulled in for late night work sometimes. And so this week we are closing on a milestone that is wrapping up this coming Tuesday. And so we had basically, this was like the last official week to get in all of our last minute changes. And of course, like the entire team, myself included, had been planning for this for a couple of months, and we got all of our big important stuff out of the way, and there was no scramble at the last minute. Of course, I'm lying. Most of this week was us, like, basically, like, we're fine, but, like, we had a lot of stuff that kind of came up at the last minute, a lot of feedback that came out at the last minute, and so in order to try to help out with that, I took basically, like, compiling duty, where we had to kind of get in line over the course of the day and be like, okay, I need to like generate stuff and then submit it, and then I can't have anybody else doing this while I'm doing it because it'll override my work, and so we had to like form a big queue. The other option is that everybody checks in like their non-code related changes, so they just check in like changes to audio, art, or whatever, and then at the end of the day like one person does a big compile, and you basically just have to like babysit the build machine, make sure it goes okay, and then if not, like file some errors and stuff. So it wasn't like I had a whole bunch of really like harrowing stuff or anything, but I needed to stay late pretty much every night the past week to be the build machine babysitter. The good news is that we got our work approved, and basically it's now going to QA for the next 2 weeks. They're going to hammer on it and see if they can break it, and we only have to do like bug fixing. No more big stuff until after the end of October, where the project enters a new phase. So now that I have that out of the way, I had to make the decision whether or not to do the light speed stuff this week, and I decided, you know what, I'll give it one more week, even though I'm like really eager and I think a little late getting to it. I want to give it one more week because I want to be able to do so with a clear head and having time to spend time over the course of the week doing some more research, as opposed to this week would have been. I mean, I could have done it, but I would have been like basically we would have just been reading the data books together, which we can do if you want, but I figured last time we only got to a small portion of the overall Sharingan stuff, so it made sense to continue in that regard for a little bit. But yeah, hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to catch up on chat real quick. Your 5x5 says Darth Mago. Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Congratulations on the channel launch, by the way. I know we already chatted in the comments, but that Star Wars was it Battlefront 2 video was great. I had no idea that the Y-wings were so effective. For some reason, I kind of adopted this prejudice, I guess, against Y-wings as being kind of clunky and unwieldy, and I never really tried to mess with them much. But that's cool to see them getting some good representation. And yeah, clearly there's a lot about that game that I haven't explored yet. I didn't realize that there were these big, like, that you showed some footage of what looked like a dog fight outside one of those donut-shaped ships that was featured in the, was it the droid control ship or something like that from the prequels? That looks super fun. I don't remember ever seeing that when I played the game, but it's been 2 or 3 years, I think, since I picked it up, maybe longer. So I guess it's about time for me to head back into it and check it out. Don't probably know enough about the Star Wars universe to comment much about that aspect of things, but I'd be more than happy to talk about the like the game design aspects for sure. That sounds like a lot of fun. Oh yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I've been genuinely really excited and happy and grateful just to have the chance to talk to folks on the regular and have these discussions. So it's really awesome. Did I actually hit 100? Just out of curiosity, I thought I was sitting at 99 the other day, which is great. It's always a huge like such a nice surprise when somebody subscribes, so I'm very grateful for that. I don't need to rush it or anything like that. I think it's likely that I will get one more subscriber, and when that happens, it'll be delightful. So thank you in advance, mystery mystery person. Um, but yeah, that'd be cool. And I saw your compilation of the was it I can't never remember their names. Is it Caleb and Sophia or Jacob and Sophia being miserable and juxtaposed with that music? Man, that was it would be so funny if it weren't so sad, or vice versa. I can't decide which, but yeah, it was great. Okay, jumping to the top. Saria says, Sharin Rinnegan Sharingan Sharon's gone Sharingan Gurren Sharingan Sharing my gun. Yes, indeed. Honestly, like, it's been kind of fun to see over the course of the series all the different permutations of the way that I type plus gan gets like reincorporated or expanded on. So that's kind of funny. Sharon ma shamalama ding dong or something. But yeah, how are you doing? I see you've written some more, so I'll catch up with you in just a second. I was thinking of asking you some Zelda questions later if you are interested, either on stream or on Discord. I've been trying to learn a little bit more about the Zelda lore, and I think, well, basically, I'll just ask this straight up. So, is my understanding correct about the timeline that like Ocarina of Time is kind of a nexus from which the timelines split, and it's like on the one hand you have Link failing to defeat Ganon, and that's why the goddesses flood the land, and then that becomes Wind Waker. Then you have a timeline where Link stays as an adult, and then you have a timeline where he goes back to being a kid. And basically, it's not like the timeline literally fractures and three separate universes are created, but it's more like these are just the three different outcomes of the narrative that we are seeing as potential things. Or are they all like real timelines? Can Link from one potentially travel to Link from another timeline if the goddesses willed it to be the case? Jumping around a little bit in chat, Fod. Sorry, I got a cough at the worst time. Hello, Fod. Glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a great week. Fod says, what's up, John? What are we going to do today? Let's see. I think today we're mostly going to be discussing the Sharingan. Last time we started going through, or 2 streams ago, we started going through a series that I'm just calling like Mixtape for now. And basically what it is when I hear or see things in the community in general that I think are like some misunderstandings that are easy enough to jump in and talk through. It'll be sort of like a random assortment of different things to chat about. And so today, I want to talk about the Sharingan. We started talking about it last time, but the goal here is to discuss like how the kinetic or predictive vision works, and also just to understand the jutsu in general and like how it relates to Sasuke as a character, how it develops, and under what circumstances under what circumstances the changes in the jutsu happen. Last time we talked about the Haku fight, and how Sasuke like awakens his Sharingan over the course of that fight. Except we didn't, did we? We didn't even get that far. We just talked about Sasuke or Kakashi's use of the Sharingan. So actually, we're going to. I guess since we're here, we'll talk about the. Nope. Actually, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna start and we're gonna go back and look at Sasuke's awakening of the Sharingan in the first place with the Haku fight, and then we're gonna go from there. This is partially coming out of a request, where was that stream that I think Lilo was doing. Lilo's Adventure, and somebody in the debate group said something along the lines of, the Sharingan lets you see the future. And I remember, we talked back, I'm not sure if you had joined at this point, Fod, but like going back a couple of months, we had talked about like that same topic, whether or not the Sharingan lets you predict the future, when going over videos from Noodles. And so it seems to be a topic that there's still some confusion about, and I wanted to see if we could maybe clear some of that up. So what I'm going to be doing is going through the chapters and just kind of reading them, taking our time, discussing them casually. Of course, if you have any other questions or you want to interrupt at any point, just kind of jump around, we can totally do that. It's it's kind of a free form thing. I don't have any like spreadsheets or charts or anything today. We're just kind of having fun with it. So uh, jumping around a little bit, catching up with everybody. Star Destroyer in orbit. The Dark Lord of Apostates has arrived. I love that. Oh, cool. I like those emojis too. I really want to figure out how to get custom emojis for the channel. I think that'd be a lot of fun. More Sharingan today. That's what's up. Yep, exactly. Of course, if the group decides like, hey, let's switch topics for a little while, I'm totally down for that. But just to give us something to focus on, it is a topic that I am pretty interested in. So I think that'll be a good starting point for the discussion. And genuinely, actually, next week I want to start with the Lightspeed stuff. I've been like practicing topics and all that. I just, I want to do it with like I said, with a clear head when I have a little bit more time to prep for it and nothing else going on. So I think next week will be the right time. Simply grinding right now. Sorry, says I had a whole discussion about Linkle from Hyrule Warriors and it made me eager to replay. Interesting. I'd be curious to hear more about that. Darth Magog is in the lab writing a new ex-Jehovah's Witness guide. Oh, excellent. That's cool. Is that going to take the form of a video or of like an actual guide that gets published that people can read? Well, either way, I'll be very eager to see that. Congratulations again on the channel launch and all the work you've been doing. Darth Magog says it's mostly a JW culture thing. Basically, what makes a person ex-JW officially, if you can call it that. Ah, interesting. Okay, so are you going to be talking a little bit about like what life is like for somebody on the outside, and what kind of challenges they face and things like that once they've kind of left the community. Quote the Maven Sharingan more. Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, like, I think I perhaps feel a little bit of an affinity for this concept or this topic because of Itachi Sharingan, perhaps. Excited to say there has been some progress on the art front. I have somebody doing some Crow-related art, and I'm going to give them some feedback this weekend, but it's coming along really well. So maybe by the time the Lightspeed stuff comes online, I'll have some new stuff to unveil as well. Then we're not too far away from the 1 year anniversary of the channel. I haven't quite figured out what I'll do, but I think I started streaming in December of last year. So I mean, we're past the 1 year anniversary of the channel entirely, but of the streams, yeah, I think it was December or something. So I'll try to think of something fun to do to celebrate on stream together. Let's see, my girl Sarah on her first management position. Nice. Oh, I missed that. I'm actually getting ready to start working from home if things go well. I'm helping a friend set up a clothing store online, so I'm partially excited, partially intimidated. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations, first and foremost. I'm sure you'll be able to handle it. I'm sure you can manage that. But yeah, that's working from home is its own beast. I mean, it comes with a lot of benefits and also some challenges that are unique. So I've been working from home for several years. If you have any questions or if I can help at all, just let me know. But yeah, I totally understand being excited and intimidated, especially since I'm guessing you're not going to be meeting everybody you work with directly in person, right? So it becomes a little weird to have working relationships with people that you only ever see a digital representation of. That was an adjustment for me. But yeah, I understand if you're scared, as you say, but for what it's worth, I have no doubt that you'll be successful. No pressure or anything. But yeah, just yeah, feel free to share your thoughts about it if you would like to. Saria says, also, yes, they're all timelines. We see in Age of Calamity, the Breath of the Wild characters jump 100 years back in time, and they say it verbatim that they aren't able to really save their ancestors because they can only save the versions of the Age of Calamity timeline. Everything else is set in stone. Oh, I see, okay. Oh, right, we talked about this and like the parallels with Trunks in DBZ, right? I think I'm remembering that. Yep. Darth Magog says, just using John as a distraction so I don't need to finish writing this effing video, LOL. Honestly, like the amount of YouTube fueled procrastination that I have benefited from myself over the years means that I owe some kind of a karmic debt, I think. To be able to repay that back. So yeah, genuinely, like I get a lot of value out of this. Almost sounds mean because I'm not watching the edited videos that people make sometimes, even though they put a lot of work into it, and sometimes I feel bad about that. But like earlier today, I was listening to a 5-hour long discussion of Bloober Team's Silent Hill 2 remake, and I just haven't had the time, and probably won't for a while, to just sit still and watch a 5 hour long video. But listening to it has been great because it's allowed me to kind of like have something that's like a companion to housework and to being idle, and if I just need something to occupy my mind, that's great. And I understand that some people who listen to this podcast, if you want to think of it that way, they listen to it like a podcast, and they prefer to just kind of listen along in the background, and not engage in chat, and that's totally fine. I'm genuinely glad if I can provide that. Of course, I hope the visual references are helpful too if people want to watch back, but ideally, all this stuff should be fun and understandable in different contexts. It's not like a lecture where you all have to just sit and be like schooled by Professor Maven, whatever. Although I will have a PowerPoint presentation, I'm sure, in the near future. So, yeah, more than happy to help. But yeah, embrace the laziness once in a while. Like, I know you're probably like joking, but at the same time, sometimes it's important to just like decompress and like allow yourself the time to create. Be a little bit freeform about it. Be a little bit, how would you say, patient with yourself. But anyway, let me take a drink of water and then we'll get started here on our topic. Yeah, it's just like Fod says, we are all a little bit lazy. Okay. So, as mentioned before, today we're going to be continuing in our series called Mix Up Mixtape, where we are just examining a collection of misunderstandings and misconceptions and just various fun topics across the Naruto series. This is in part a response to a debate that happened on the channel Lilo's Adventure. I highly recommend you check out his channel. Over the past few weeks, he has hosted a couple of debates that have been, pretty friendly, pretty open-ended. He's invited people to kind of come in on Discord and have conversations, and I really respect the way that he's like disagreed with people while asking questions and while being curious about the topic overall. My only regret is that it's the people who come in as Naruto fans sometimes are kind of, well, let me rephrase that. I think there's still some concepts in the community that we all that are commonly misunderstood. And that goes for me as well. There are things that I think are maybe not as well explained as they could have been, maybe some that were retconned, or maybe some where they're open-ended and you kind of have to read between the lines, or like maybe we just need to come to our own interpretations about things. And one of those things is the Sharingan. There is a common misconception that the Sharingan lets you see into the future. So, for example, like being able to see what happens to you, like what will happen to you 5 seconds in the future or something like that, and then being able to make a choice that then alters and changes that outcome. That's not quite how it works, but it's a little bit confusing, especially in part 1, because Kakashi has these lines about how like he sees Zabuza's future and he sees death in his future. He seems to literally read his mind. He also seems to be able to predict what he's going to do and do it before he does. So the very first time we encounter the Sharingan and see it in use, it does actually seem like it's being presented as a future reading sort of ability. And then that context for that kind of changes, along with other things about the series. Like, we hear things referred to as like jutsu being referred to as magic spells and illusions that are like magical in nature. The terms spell and caster like come up. Those terms come up quite a bit in the first couple dozen chapters, and then those are kind of phased out, and we get a more concrete magic system as is expanded on. So we went over Kakashi last time. Please feel free to check out that video if you want to learn more about my thoughts, or our thoughts as a intro to the topic overall, and to see that like more magical interpretation, so to speak. And then I love this little mischievous grin from Zabuza here. And then we can kind of go from there and try to see, like, is it indeed the case that the Sharingan helps you predict the future? And if not, what exactly is it doing? How does it work? And how is it portrayed? And specifically, I want to look out for little details in the fights that I might not normally have picked up on while just, kind of reading the stuff casually or whatnot. Let me know if you have any questions. Saria says, "Embrace the laziness." Kairi, Sora, you lazy bum. Oh, that's got to be a That's from Kingdom Hearts, right? I admit that my knowledge of Kingdom Hearts memes is limited pretty exclusively to Donald Duck, which I will spare you my Donald Duck impression, because it's pretty much non-existent. Limited to Donald Duck, like shrieking that this would be a good place to find some ingredients, and then also there's like a mini game where you're with Ariel and you're doing like a singing game talking about fishy fun or something. That lives in my head. I would say rent free. I would charge rent, but it just refuses to pay and makes a lot of noise. And I have no means of evicting it, so it's just in there now, taking up space. So, hooray! Uh, Darth Magog says, "I wonder if Kakashi thought that Sakura might have been helpful in the fight with Haku, or if she would have been helpful if someone else showed up." Interesting. I wonder, because so far what Sakura has shown, in terms of her capabilities, has been a sort of genius level, I guess, proficiency with chakra control. And I think they were kind of setting up a like a triangle in terms of Naruto being like the brawn and the raw power, Sasuke being the finesse and refinement, finesse et grâce, right? Or finesse et précision. And then Sakura kind of more being the brains and the, if not the tactical analyst, then the resourceful kind of. I think there's some lines in the data books that say something about like her being the core of the team that keeps everything together, everything stable, something like that. And then with her like techniques of illusion, we see that fight with Kurenai. I think it was when Itachi first shows up. I think she was kind of being positioned into the role of being more of an illusionist and more of like a logistics and then eventually like healing support character in the party, so to speak. So I don't really know what Kakashi thought Sakura would have done here. However, Zabuza does use like illusions and feints and like the mist technique and stuff like that, or hiding a mist technique. So I think if I were in Kakashi's position, I would have I would take on Zabuza. I would have Sasuke duel with Haku, but I would have Sakura be on like logistics and support, and basically be on the lookout for any kind of fuckery with genjutsu or any kind of manipulation of that nature, and also be protecting the vulnerable person that they got hired to protect in the first place. Not because she's useless or anything, but because she's probably the least like combat proficient of the people there, and is better able to see like an incoming illusion or deception or something like that, given that she has that chakra control or whatnot. But that's just me speculating. Sorry, says, "I wonder if Kakashi thinks." He seems to be touted as being a pretty smart guy, despite his lazy appearance. So I think so, yeah. I think he's pretty mentally astute. When I did that little review of Stellar Friends, I made some comment about how the characters are like busting out from the bounds of the frames and stuff like that. And I think the way that Stellar Friends handles it is pretty unique to itself, so to speak. That author's version of this is pretty unique. But Kishi, I've been seeing it more and more in different comics, and it is kind of nice here. Like you see both Kakashi and Zabuza kind of looming so tall above their. I mean, it's kind of ironic because like Haku is stronger than Zabuza, but like we see both of the leaders here looming over their subordinates, and the height and not dominance, but I guess like assertiveness of the characters is portrayed by having them like be superimposed over the bounds of the panel, and that's something that Kishimoto actually plays with quite a bit. I just never noticed it before. Yeah, like here's another example, right? Like Haku just sort of being rendered on top of the other panels. There are, and we talked a little bit about this last time, about how he also uses like panel size and angle and stuff to create a sense of like tension and timing. One of the things that you'll hear a lot when people go over like fights and debates and stuff in the Naruto sphere, or just in comics in general, is it's really hard to get speed calcs and speed evaluations sometimes because you never really know how much time occurs between panels. But the thing is that the mangaka are aware of this, and they still want to convey a sense of speed and tension and like pacing. And Kishimoto, in particular, if you read the blurbs at the ends of chapters, was extremely passionate about film. He used to spend all of his allowance and all of his free time like going to the cinema and watching the same movies over and over and like studying them and reading books on cinema. So he tries really hard to emulate cinematic presentation, both in like the framing and angles of the way that his scenes are set up. And like, this is like a inspired by a fisheye lens sort of effect as well. But then also like tries to find a way to translate that into the like arrangement and skewing and framing and size of the panels. So just something kind of fun to keep an eye out for. Maybe this is really basic for people who read a lot of comics, but there are certainly some panels that are they almost look like storyboards in a movie, right? They are just like little individual snapshots, but other that are very like kind of regular and regimented almost in the way that they're designed. But then there's little moments like this where there's a flurry of quick things happening in little small panels, and then it all kind of culminates in this big clash. So it's like, oh, this happened, this is really, really quick, right? The small panels, you're with less detail in them, your eye is kind of more inclined to scan through them, and then bang, like that, right? It's a way of trying to replicate the motion from the anime or from what the anime or movie version of this sort of thing might be into a static medium, which is a really, really interesting challenge, I think, as a creator. Oh, I forgot if I saw your comment above Darth Magog about how this will be a video, but that's cool. I look forward to seeing that. Just want to make sure I acknowledge that. And yeah, I agree, Fod, in case I didn't mention it before. Yes, we all have the laziness within us as well. So let's see. Only when Kishimoto Sensei lets his primary purpose is to be fangirl bait, fanboy bait too. Like, don't rule that out. I mean, he consistently ranked towards the top, if not the top, of the popularity contests. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but sometimes in the ends or starts of the manga volumes, they'll have like popularity contest results, and Kakashi consistently beats out like most other characters, including Orochimaru, who I remember seeing him get beat out by Shino and like Kiba. Like, he was like way down at the bottom, which is really surprising during his heyday as well. Sorry says, my favorite thing with power scalers is that a character will say something in their head, and a power scaler will be like, they're trying to hype the guy up, like the opponent can read their mind. I mean, like, yeah, that's part of. So I have to admit that, like, I'm not trying to throw shade on power scaling in general, but I will say that I've noticed that the way, since I've started like power scaling, or at least being interested in the topic in debates and stuff like that, it's caused me to have to develop a certain set of skills, and when I then catch myself using those skills, I find myself filtering out a lot of stuff from the manga and applying only a very specific perspective to a lot of things, because I find myself like reading through and interpreting things and coming to a conclusion, and then being like, well, I can't prove that and I can't win that in a debate, so I guess I'll like let go of that, right? And I have to remind myself that no, like, this is a work of art, we're reading the art and interpreting it, and obviously we should try to be fair and balanced, especially when discussing it and representing it to others. But at the same time, it's not just like one very specific, like almost scientific approach is the only way to understand this. And you can still come to conclusions that are reasonable, or at least compelling, and enhance your understanding of it, even if you can't like prove them in court, if that makes sense. Even if you can't like beat somebody else in an argument about them. So yeah, I think that if a character in his head is like, oh my god, this opponent is so strong, I can't believe anybody would ever be that strong, then if you want to then say, okay, well, that character is, you know what, let's use a specific example. Like, remember during the pain fight when Kakashi is fighting the Deva Path, and then Asura shows up, and Kakashi says something like, I can't believe that Jiraiya managed to fight 6 of them at the same time. That's crazy, right? So my interpretation of that is clearly that Kakashi is recognizing Pain's superiority to him, but also recognizing Jiraiya's superiority to him, because he's like, I can't, like, it's unfathomable to me that anybody would ever be able to stand up to 6 whole paths. I'm like barely able to stand up to 1 or 2, right? Even Jiraiya couldn't do that. So I would say that Kakashi is telling us that Kakashi thinks, he himself believes that Jiraiya is probably stronger than him based on that. Could I like win a debate about that? No, maybe not. Like, can I actually prove to you that that's the case? No, maybe not. But I don't know how else to phrase it. I think that reading of that scene makes perfect sense, and I would find no real reason to argue against anybody for having that perspective, right? So I think it's important that we allow ourselves to, if we put on the lens, so to speak, like the tinted glasses of a particular perspective, just remember to take them off every once in a while and like swap them out for another tint, so to speak, or maybe even go without glasses just to ride this metaphor off a cliff for a little while and just see like how things look from different perspectives, because otherwise everything gets like forced into this one box, I guess. And I found that detracting from my enjoyment of the series. I had to take a step back and just be like, I need to just read this for fun for a little while so that I can remember what that was like. But anyway, going back up, sorry, I said, you think that's a thing that mathematical power scalers do more? I would guess that it would be more the mathematical. No, not even the mathematical folks. More the religious type scalers. Yeah. Not sure, to be honest, but I feel like that the math folks are almost like a little bit more humble from what I've seen, in that they will go through the process of generating the math and vetting it and showing their work and establishing its like credibility, and then they'll just kind of leave it there and be like, what do you guys think? And now obviously I haven't like tracked down every single person who's done this, but when I look at the calcs and I actually read their comments consistently, I have found that people are like, here is my calc, here is my math, what do you guys think? I'm submitting this for your approval, and then you can use this however you want, right? It's sort of like a volunteered factoid that then people can use to build arguments if they want to. Whereas the people who then use those calcs are the ones that I tend to have more of a problem with, right? Like folks like, I don't know, just insert person here who will just like quote a calc without really reading it or understanding the terms of what it's referring to, and will say stuff like, it has been calced, like the Raikage has been calced at 72 times the speed of light, or like the Biju bombs have been calced at multi-continental, and just assert that thing as a fact and then be like, you have to agree with everything else I say based on this because it's been done, the math has been done, right? Usually the people making arguments like that and trying to force it through are not the calcers themselves. It's the other people who are using their work for their own agendas. It seems to me, based on my limited experience, that the calc folks are more just interested in generating data. Some of them, I'm sure, think that they have proven things, and maybe they have, and maybe they're very dogmatic about it. I don't know. But yeah, that would be my guess. I'd be curious to see if you guys wind up agreeing with that. Saria says, I think it's more the religious types. Oh, okay, interesting. Religious types, the more mathematical ones tend to understand that, hey, if they're saying this in their head, it's probably so so the audience understands how dangerous this is. Yeah, I think we're in agreement if I understand you correctly. John the Maven says, Darth, Kakashi is the bi-awakening of a generation. Now, that might explain a few things, myself included. It's weird, like, we only get to see a tiny portion of Kakashi's, like, actual, like, self, like, his face, because so much of it is obscured behind, his mask and his outfit and everything, but there's something just about his presence and his confidence and his aura, and the way that he conveys himself that's just oddly very, very charming and very attractive, even though it's not like the traditional sort of attractive. Although now that his face has been revealed, I guess we can add that too. But Darth Magog says, even if you're not Kakashi is everyone's exception to their rule. Yeah, for fair. I know Ace fans that went that want them some Reiki. Yeah, of course. They just feel like a little bit of a spark between them. It's so wild that there are agendas in a comic about magic ninjas. Yeah, I know. Well, so I think there's a couple of sides to it. So as somebody who spent like probably thousands of hours at this point, not a humble brag. I'm just like literally thinking about how much time I've spent both like over the past like say 3 years, like listening to debates, making my own videos, doing the streaming, prepping for the streaming. Probably at least like definitely at least 1,000 hours because that first video took me about the Itachi versus Pain video took me like 500 hours to make. So probably close to like 1,500 to 2,000 hours over the past let's say 3-ish years, if you especially if you include like listening to debates, like going back and forth over the debates, right? And then reading the manga and then reading the comics and like watching the movies, you put all that together, right? Let's just say 2,000 hours. I think that's probably reasonable considering that I have like almost that much in Total War Warhammer 2, which is like really really embarrassing to admit, but whatever. um Over the course of that, you have to ask why we would like spend that amount of time so hyper focused on understanding something in a particular way. And for me, you don't do that unless you really like something and it really means something to you, or you're just like super obsessive, I guess. I'm not sure, but like for me anyway, it's been that this is series is one that I read when I was growing up. It's something that I connected with deeply on an emotional level. I really, really love the way that Naruto's empathy was used to resolve conflicts. Of course, I love the fights. Of course, I love the jutsu. Of course, I love the world building. Um, but I think the moment that like changed something in my brain was Naruto's resolution with Gaara and how he like manages to befriend him and change him. That was like not just influential in terms of the media that I like, but just literally the way that I talk to people. I think I am genuinely a more empathetic and patient person because of this comic. And when I saw people talking about it, I think I talked about this previously, but like when I randomly found that debate between Swag and Afro and Six and Kabuki, at the I was just like shocked and thrilled, honestly, that there were people who were talking for 3 hours or so about fucking Naruto, because I like in Italy it was popular, but it wasn't like anybody else at my school was reading it. It wasn't like I had people that I was sharing it with. Really, there's like one other person, a friend of mine, who watched it with me, but like that's pretty much it, right? And so same thing in college and whatever. Nobody that I was friends with was really that into it. And then all of a sudden there was this like big community where people were celebrating it and they were talking about it. And for some of them, I think it was some of the same reasons. Um, but then, I started asking other people like what they liked about it, and sometimes I would get a similar answer, but a lot of times I would get an answer that was like, it's because like I like it because it's the underdog defeating everybody else who never thought like Naruto's an underdog, and then he worked really hard, and then he beat a lot of other people up and showed them not to underestimate him and that he was actually way better than them the whole time. And I was like, I mean, that's part of it. Like Naruto proving that he's worthy of the title of Hokage is obviously a major theme in the story, but it's also because he wants love and acceptance. He doesn't want to just like shove it in everybody else's faces. And around the time when I started making that realization, I also saw a lot of the kind of animosity between the Naruto community and other communities, the animosity within the Naruto community. And then I realized that, like, look, I'm not saying I have a monopoly over how you get to connect with a comic. That would be fucking stupid. But at the same time, I think that there's a different perspective where the series also appeals to people who perceive themselves as being like unfairly downtrodden or whatever, and like the idea of subverting that and then like applying that to other people. I'm not saying it's everybody, and I'm not saying that you can't like the idea of being an underdog and then overcoming adversity. Of course not. That's great. That's a universal thing. I think we all sympathize with the underdog, right? It's a whole thing. But then like the sort of smirking, glib, triumphant, like, ha ha ha, you motherfuckers, I was always the best and now you're gonna pay, like that kind of thing was not what I expected to see. But it does kind of go hand in hand with some of the debate attitudes and stuff like that. and then some of the ways that, like, I mean, like, we'll get into this when we start talking about the light speed stuff for sure. But how many times have you seen? Like, for me, it's a lot. Maybe it's just me, but like, how many times have you seen somebody say like, "I don't think that the Naruto character you're talking about is quite that strong." And, like, they say that in a comment or something, or in response to somebody in a Naruto debate, and the other person, the Naruto supporter, will say like, "Oh, nice rage bait, idiot! Look, it's a Naruto downplayer. Everybody just trying to downplay Naruto to bait us. Oh, One Piece fan detected. You know, get out of here, One Piece fan." And there's now been this like weird, almost like hair trigger response that if somebody starts like criticizing or down, or like basically trying to recontextualize or trying to like fact check anything within the community, then it's just like, "Oh, you must be here to put me down again, right? And you must be here to put down the thing that I like. You must be here to tell me that I'm not as good as I think I am because the thing that I like isn't as good as I think I am. So now I have to put you down as quickly as possible and shut this whole fucking thing down and show you in the most objective terms in public so that everybody sees and everybody knows that I'm right and you're wrong." And it's like, oh boy, like, we've really like missed the point here. But I get it. I totally understand, because when I'm sure you guys can relate to this too, if you have niche fandoms that are like your own kind of personal thing that you connect with in a deep way and it means something to you, and then all of a sudden you see a bunch of other people like misunderstanding it, or it gets watered down or overly commercialized. How many Dragon Ball fans do you think, like, or like Halo fans, right, seeing the, I mean, you can insert any fandom here, like literally any fandom where it's like it started off as a small thing, and then all of a sudden it blew up, but it blew up in a way that was completely different, or taken over by somebody else, and you didn't like the way that it was represented. Silent Hill fans are going to be crying about this for decades. I know, because I'm one of them, and it sucks. And I think ironically that's part of the reason why I started making videos, is because I was like, you know what, it really makes me upset to see that this world and this universe that I feel this way about is getting represented in this way, and I'd like to change that, if only a little bit. So I need to say something, and maybe nobody will listen. Obviously, you guys have proven me wrong about that, and I'm very grateful for that. But even if nobody did listen, I have to say something. I have to get this off my chest, right? And so, I don't know. I guess that's to kind of put a button on this rant. Like, that's kind of a cool thing about the series, is that even if I think I've got the best interpretation, and I think I truly understand it, and maybe somebody else like Noodles thinks he does, or Seth, or whoever else, doesn't fucking matter, right? Like, whoever thinks that they have the right answer and has a diametrically opposing view still cares a lot about something, and enough about it to fight for it. Obviously, I'd rather that fight be more of an empathetic, like, attempt to understand each other, because I think that better represents the series. But you have to just take a step back and give Kishimoto credit for managing to create a piece of art that's so compelling that, like, 20-ish years later, it's still got people this worked up about it. Like, new generation of people is finding it and falling in love with it, and like going to fucking bat for it, like ready to fight, like ready to, even people who aren't aggressive, like ready to dedicate their like career to making videos about this every week and building communities on Discord. And like, there's something about this series that, regardless of whether, you know, I approve or whatever, it just like really inspires people, and that's really fucking cool. And like, I'm just happy to be a part of that discussion. So hang on, let me get a drink of water, and then I'll give you the long version. So yeah, and the agendas are like feed into that, of course. Saria says TikTok is giving me a migraine. Oh shit, yeah. MCU scalers are asinine because they'll act like they have a better understanding of the lore that's being adapted than people who read the source material. No, you can't read shit. See, this is the mistake that we're making here together, Saria. And this is the reason why none of us will ever be power scalers, because we're actually reading the code. I'm sorry. I don't want to cast aspersions. There are folks who do power scaling that do it well. And I'm not trying to throw everybody under the bus here, like Acolyte and Fod. Would you consider yourself a scaler? I don't want to apply a term to you if it doesn't apply, but like, there are smart people who understand this shit and do a good job. When I refer to, sorry, I think we all know and I'll understand hopefully that we're referring to the specific type of like debate bro of power scaling, right? But yeah, like why would you ever read the comics? You could just take a line from an interview out of context and just like say point to it and say verbatim stated asshole, and then you'd be all set, right? That's all it takes, right? Um, Darth Magog says that's always the response. Yeah, debate me, bro. Yeah, 1v1 me, bro. Fucking Fox only, Final Destination, no items. We'll settle it like adults. Source citations are irrelevant. It's just for content. Yeah, of course. Um, well, that's also the other thing too. Like, I I obviously this might be slander, I guess, but I mean, come on. I am reasonably confident that a lot of YouTubers will go out of their way to say stuff that's a little bit provocative, a little bit incendiary, to just to get other people to chime in the comments and then make their own video and then do the tennis thing back and forth, right? Like that's not just the Naruto community. That's like in general, any community that has the opportunity for like a back and forth like React style thing, that'll happen because it's genuinely beneficial for both channels. I think I talked about this before, right? Like 10 years ago or so, I used to be a fan of like H3H3, and at the time, like I liked the fact that to my mind he was going around like policing other crappy channels, and then like starting feuds with them to kind of take him to task, man, and take him down for being bad or whatever, and then find out that like he's like buddies with quite a few of them, or at least it was at the time. And so it's like, yeah, of course they were the whole time. They never really had any real animosity between each other, as far as I know. They were just playing, right? Like they just sort of lean into the drama of it, and because neither of them is going to not profit from some controversy back and forth, right? Of course, this is all my opinion, like fucking disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer for legal purposes in Minecraft, you know, like I don't really know anything that went behind the scenes, but it was just surprising to see like folks like that go from being in a massive feud one week and then just being like chilling the next week. It's because it was never really a massive feud, right? So a lot of it, I think, just speculating, but I think that it can genuinely be healthy to be a bit provocative and a bit obnoxious because it gets people talking. I mean, like, look, how much shit have I done on this channel that's just been like somebody said something that I found irritating and I had to tell everybody else how much smarter I was. That's like all of my content, except for the Claire Obscure stuff. Everything else on my channel has been, hang on, they said what on the internet? Fuck, I gotta fix this, right? So sorry, I was like, or sorry, sorry, I said, to be honest, I was just like, nope, bro, I'm not fighting you on text on the games, lore books, and manuals, goodbye. Right, exactly, because you need to do a Noodles and Jay the Great we're going to do and get into a boxing ring. That's the only way for you to resolve your conflicts. I expect to see you, like, flipping back and forth through the air, bicycle kicks to the face. Like, that's the, that's the only way to resolve your disagreements about comics is in the Ring of Honor, in a steel cage match, so... How are you feeling, by the way? I haven't asked about your recovery in a long time. I hope you're doing okay. I know you went through a lot back there, so I hope you're feeling better. Darth Magog said, I think I'm considered a casual scaler, but I mostly do cross first, so 90% of what I have to do has to be mathematically supported. Okay, cool. So you understand then when I say, like, if I say quote-unquote power scalers are X, Y, or Z, I'm saying, like, the specific type of power scaling stuff done by some people annoys me and not throwing you under the bus. I hope that's understood, right? Darth Magog says, I'm old school, though. I was on the DBC movie forums back in '05. Oh, okay, cool. So you've been doing the, have you been doing, like versus battle type stuff since back then? That's cool. Do you have a favorite, DBC movie? Okay, well, thank you, as always, for indulging my my rambles. Sorry says, oh yeah, I'm very well. I mean, I ache sometimes, but it's nothing crazy. Oh, okay, good. I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, I think I mentioned I broke my leg, and when that happened, it took me quite some time to kind of get back to normal. And even then, it was probably about a year. You know, like I was only on crutches for 2 or 3 months, if that. And then it was like I was able to kind of get around on my own just fine. But after that, there was still a lot of PT and stretching and like, all this shit that I had to adjust to. So, could have been a lot worse. So I'm not really complaining. And I got a cool robot leg now. So, or no, I'm exaggerating. I got a metal rod that's kind of going up the middle of my leg that's like drilled into my femur. Um, so I should get that checked out. Actually, it's been a while. Get an X-ray to see how that's doing. But yeah, so like I'm low key cyborg, um, and I actually like being able to say that. But at the time, there was a time where all I wanted was just to be able to like walk my dog without hobbling on my crutches at like 1 foot per minute. It was a fucking mess. So I was just like, oh no, I hope she's not going through that. I hope you're doing better. Um, yeah. You know what I mean? No worries. Okay, good. You were on Google Plus with it. Battle Kingdom. Oh, not sure what you mean. Oh no, I'm lost. Sorry, but I'm glad you're doing okay. Darth Magog says favorite DBC movie. Honestly, probably that new Broly movie. Took my brother to go see it when they did the American run, and we had a blast. Felt like we were kids again. Oh, that's awesome. Was that the 4D one, or is that like a separate, more recent thing? Silent Hill PT, Silent Hill Physical Therapy. Yes, exactly. Another note, I have been playing some Silent Hill F. I'd be curious if you guys pick it up, what you think. I have such mixed feelings about it as a long-term Silent Hill fan. I think it's really interesting that the term, like the brand Silent Hill, is like branching out and meaning more things, and it's like referring to a certain almost genre of horror as opposed to one specific vision of horror. And so I think the game overall has earned the title, but it's still kind of like, ironically, I think that the remake of Silent Hill 2 does a better job of like creating a Silent Hill experience than Silent Hill F does. But F is more like more unique, I guess, and has like its own, has like a more interesting, is a more like innovative addition to the franchise than just like the paint over plus modern controls that the remake was. I'm underselling it. The remake is really good. But yeah. Anyway, the 2018 Broly movie, The Canon one. Oh yeah, I haven't seen that. I really need to get around to that. But cool. Yeah, now with your endorsement, now I definitely have to check it out. Power scaling. That's where I was when I was power scaling as a kid. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Darth Magog says it was the one where they fought Broly and Frieza again. I think I want to say it was pre-pandemic. Oh yeah, okay, cool. I'll check it out. Okay, so, what the fuck are these characters? Oh, cool. Got a nice One Piece crossover over here, like that. Um, Acolyte, if you're listening, I did see your One Piece posts. I am way behind on the Discord. I will catch up with that soon, I promise. Probably tomorrow I'll be able to kind of go through and respond to messages, because I think it'll be relatively slow at work, so I'll have a chance to catch up. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Sasuke and his awakening of the Sharingan, and about his initial fight against Haku. So there's a couple of things that are worth noting here. First, as we saw in the previous chapter, Zabuza manages to create water clones and send the water clones in through the mist to attack Kakashi and M. And after doing so, Sasuke is able to very quickly dispatch them, or dispense of them, whatever the phrase is. I hate ham actors. And it is, I guess you could argue that that's a blitz. I mean, I don't know if technically he outsped their perceptual abilities, but it seemed like he did. He just kind of like, I think when people think of a blitz, they think of what Sasuke pulled off against those water clones, right? He just like, we just see him very quickly move and defeat all of them. We don't see them react. We don't see them respond whatsoever. And then they're just fucking gone, right? So now he's facing off against Haku. We see Haku do what appears to be like a body flicker adjacent thing, right? Like we see like a little poof or a little whiz of movement. And it looks like he moves extremely quickly over to Sasuke's location. And Sasuke notices him like body flicker right in front of him, says what, and then is able to perceive it and then react to it. So who knows at this point if Sasuke's overall movement speed is faster than Haku's, but he is able to perceive, I'm going to call this body flicker, because that's what I think it is, I could be wrong, but he's able to perceive Haku's body flicker, see it coming, predict where the attack is going to come from, and then block it in time, and apparently not take damage, I think. Let's see. I think he just like outright parries it, right? Excuse me. Oh, so tired. Okay, so that's where he's at a baseline, starting off the fight. Now he and Haku clash together, and again, they seem pretty relative. Zabuza seems a little bit surprised about that, maybe a little bit, not resigned exactly, but like kind of accepting that the challenge is going to be more than he thought. So they're relative, right? Also, probably, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but probably the case that they're relative in just physical strength, since they're like holding each other. They're doing like the lightsaber clash, so to speak, where they're holding each other up against one another like that. Haku says, I don't want to have to kill you, but you probably won't leave quietly, will you? So this is something that we have to keep in mind, especially since we're going to be talking about Lightspeed next week. One of the things that, or like one of the like anti-counters that I hear about like the Haku Lightspeed thing is that I'll say like, well, somebody will say Haku was trying to kill them. Somebody will say Haku is moving at light speed, and then I'll say, well, Sasuke must have been moving at light speed too, because he intercepted some of Haku's attacks. And then somebody else will say, well, Haku wasn't really trying to kill him, right? And so, oh, okay. Then the argument becomes, well, Haku can actually move at the speed of light. We just don't see him do it in whatever panel we're talking about now, because, oh, at this time he was holding back. At this time he wasn't going at the speed of light. Then, of course, the question becomes, well, how can we actually like fairly tell when he is or isn't using his light speed movement? Sometimes people will just say when he moves between the mirrors, but we'll see that that gets a little complicated as well. So let's just keep that in mind and think about when does Haku's like rampage mode kick in, if it ever does kick in? When does he decide that he is going to kill Sasuke and start taking it seriously, right? And if like Naruto had showed up and Zabuza had just cut off Naruto's head, right? Like Zabuza showed up and Naruto showed up and he's like, "Yo, I'm here to save the day." And then like Zabuza cuts his head off and is like, "Actually, shut up, kid." Do you think at that point that Haku would have been like, "Oh, I'm going to continue sparing Sasuke," or do you think he would actually follow Zabuza's commands and kill him? Is there a situation here in which Haku actually does kill them both, right? I think so. I think with Naruto he had a special connection, but I don't think he would have sacrificed his life unless he felt he got to the point where, like, if Naruto hadn't come up with his Kyuubi chakra mode, like Haku would eventually have killed him, right? I'd be curious if people agree with that. Anyway, moving on. Haku says, just as I thought, however, you won't be able to match my speed for long, and I've laid the groundwork for two attacks. Firstly, there's the water splashed all around us. Secondly, I've trapped one of your hands with parrying this move, which leaves you only one hand to defend yourself from my attacks. So, I previously said, like just a page ago, that Sasuke and Haku were relative, and it's true, like he is able to perceive and react to Haku's speed, but even so, Sasuke here is just reacting to what Haku's doing, right? And so sometimes when we talk about power scaling things, we'll be like, well, I literally heard, I think Noodles say this in his debate with Weeaboo Warrior, where Weeaboo was saying like, or Noodles was saying, here's this example of this character showing relativity, and then Weeaboo said, well, that's just one panel. And then Noodles said, well, that's all we need is one panel to establish relativity. I wish I could remember the exact quote where that's from, because I don't want to be misrepresenting people. But that being said, the temptation here in a debate or whatever would be to take this panel out of context and just say, look, Sasuke is relative to Haku because we see him being relative to Haku, right? But obviously there's a lot of problems with that. And I'm not even talking about the light speed mirror thing or anything like that. I'm talking about the fact that even though he appears to be relative, Haku has actually already laid a trap that if he were going all out could have killed Sasuke immediately, right? Like, he doesn't have to even tell him this. If he were bloodlusted, if he were just like, if Zabuza was like, kill him immediately as quickly as possible, and he followed that, then Sasuke would have probably died like right away, right? He could have just put the mirrors up without explaining it and just eliminated him. So on the one hand, you can argue that Haku here is actually holding back by virtue of the fact that he's, self-reporting at all, but also that he is superior to Sasuke even in this exchange where it seems like Sasuke is relative to him, if that makes sense. Then he does this shit, which is crazy, and is revealed as like, an insane feat. I really like the expression of shock and the sweat bead, and then specifically this phrasing of, I've never seen anything like it. Excuse me. One sec. I've never seen anything like it, which I'm guessing is going to wind up being one of those things where it's like kind of a quirky translation from the Japanese. But at the same time, understand here that Kakashi, in all of his experience, in all of his, fights with people over the years, in accruing like 1,000 jutsu, if you believe that literally, still doesn't believe, or still has never seen somebody use hand seals with only one hand, which is crazy, right? So, also a nice little detail there. These little vibration lines, I think, are there to indicate that there is still some tension, but despite the fact that they are clashing, Haku can kind of like calmly move this up and perform this jutsu, which is obviously like a high level technique. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, so then Zabuza says, I don't want to have to kill you. I wonder if he really means that. And before we even get to any of the Sharingan stuff, this is a really interesting moment over here. Sasuke, despite the impending danger, despite everything that's about to happen, he manages to focus, gather his energy, put it on his feet, and then use it to give himself this massive jumping boost. So this establishes a couple things. One is that Sasuke is able to kind of keep nerves of steel under pressure, which should not be all of that crazy. Two is that he mirrors Haku in a way, and that he's also like using a weapon with one hand, but then also like, performing a jutsu, I think even with the same exact hand sign. So it's like Haku and Sasuke are mirroring each other. And he then manages to jump, which kind of implies that he wouldn't be able to jump this high or this far without using this particular technique, right? Otherwise, he might have just done that without taking the time and risking the extra time consumption, so to speak, of gathering the chakra. So that also puts like a vague upper limit on his height, of his jump height, although how exactly high he jumps here is kind of hard to tell, right? However, he not only that, but he also manages to come out of it while taking the height advantage against Haku. I think Haku was just kind of expecting his technique to work, because he winds up like looking down or off to the side, and he doesn't even notice that Sasuke is gone. And I guess you could argue that like we have a bare minimum height for him as being up here, right? So anyway, if you wanted to try to calc that, I suppose, Haku manages to outspeed the incoming shuriken. And not only that, Sasuke manages to get behind him as well and get the upper hand on him. So now it does appear that Sasuke has subverted our initial expectation that Haku is superior to him and is clashing with him and taking him by surprise, and then doing these maneuvers over here. And Haku seems genuinely surprised by how fast he is. Of course, he manages to pull this off and says, Zabuza says he's losing a battle of speed. Okay, so what a really interesting back and forth and exchange of tension for this fight. There are several moments where we think one character has the advantage over the other, and then it's kind of resolved in a very kind of satisfying final clash. There is subversion of subversion, and to me anyway, it just makes the whole fight seem, I know, it's very well choreographed for being a pretty short exchange between these two characters, right? And it establishes that Sasuke is capable of harming Haku, as well as exceeding his speed at a baseline. Right? But yeah, and this goes back to what we were saying before, Darth Magog and Saria, about like Sakura being the sharp mind. this guy's, kind of portrayed as being a bit of a doofus. But yeah, they're kind of demonstrated to have their roles in the party comp. So now it does kind of seem like Haku is getting a little bit more serious with this. Okay, Ice Crystal Magic Mirror Technique, and we will get to that in just a second. Again, Kakashi doesn't know this technique, so Haku is consistently surprising him. It just kind of adds to his mystique as a character, given how well learned and traveled and experienced Kakashi is. So let's see. Sorry says I was on Kakashi. Timeout. Let's watch it. Yeah, pretty much. They just stand there and let them go at it. So this is something I find kind of interesting. I actually want to go to the black and white version for just 1 second, because I want to check the onomatopoeia. And this is 37, right? So let's go. Chaputar 37. Click. Okay. Is this the right one? No, what the hell? 24. I was jumping ahead. Sorry about that. 24. Okay. Just want to see what sound effects they're using for this. Okay, so we got clink, 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 clink. And then gleam, and then splash, and then sloop. Okay, so glint, shum, pop. Pop, 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 pop. Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking for, was the pop, 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 pop. So just scanning through this real quick. Let me show you real speed. Okay, so let's go back to here. I was curious about the pop because I'm still not 100% clear what we're supposed to get out of this this here, because it looks like the mirrors themselves are basically two-dimensional. Now, obviously, they must have some sort of thickness in the world itself, right? But it looks to be very thin. They almost look to be like thin sheets of paper or like glass mirrors, right? And what's weird about it is that when Haku gets into the mirror, it looks like he's going from being three-dimensional to two-dimensional in the way that he's represented. And I think we talked before about the possibility that maybe when he's entering a mirror, he kind of enters like a Kamui type space where he is physically present and removed from the from I guess like the main world in the same way that Obito is, and yet he's able to kind of leave that space whenever he wants to and just kind of, come back to snap back to reality whenever he wants. And the alternate explanation, I really like that explanation actually, because it gives like a little bit more mechanical clarity to how the mirrors work. But another potential explanation is that there isn't a great explanation, that this is, its official name in the data book is demonic mirroring illusion ice crystals, right? Something like that. So it is an illusory technique. Even though it's a ninjutsu, it's a Kekkei Genkai, it is also incorporating the term illusion in how it works. So this could, if not literally a genjutsu, this could partially be something similar to that, where especially at this point in the story where things hadn't been as clearly defined, and I don't think they'd really broken down genjutsu, ninjutsu, and taijutsu to that extent. Like, we don't get the explanation from Ebisu until chapter 90 and all that. Obviously we get the bell test explanation, but that this could be a little bit more of a blurring of the lines between those different techniques. The fact that we get a pop, though, makes me think that there is actually some reaction happening in each one of these mirrors separately. As a completely crazy separate aside that has nothing to do with anything, this kind of reminds me of the Phantom Ganon fight in the Forest Temple in Ocarina, And it makes me wonder if there is like, because obviously Kishimoto draws a lot from Japanese like myth and folklore and from Shinto and Buddhist imagery. So I'm wondering if, and I think that there are other things that are shared between like Naruto and the Zelda games, certainly Naruto and the Souls games. I wonder if both of those things are a reference to something shared. It could be a complete coincidence. Also, the idea of things living in mirrors or paintings or whatnot is not unique to any one culture, I'm sure. But it makes me wonder if they are potentially referring to like a, if we're supposed to think of a yokai or something like that, like especially with this particular mask and the appearance and everything. Like, what is that? Is it meant to kind of recall or reference something? Um, I love onomatopoeia so much, says Saria. Yeah, it's such a great word. It really is genuinely awesome. It's fun and musical to say, kind of like onomatopoeia themselves, right? Darth Magog says, I wonder what happens if someone destroys all the mirrors at the same time while he's still in it. Yeah, I think we might have talked about that last time. My headcanon is that he would just kind of like get kicked out. You know, the same way that he's kind of like slurring in whatever the onomatopoeia was that he used. I think this happens, but in reverse really fast. He would just kind of like get kicked out of them. Unless he's distributing, I mean, that's the other thing too, right? Maybe you could argue that because this is a Kekkei Genkai, there are characters who can, like Ukon and Sakon, who can weirdly, fluidly manipulate their body, and Kimimaro can do some crazy things with his body. And there's the guy who can, I always forget his name, but he's the guy who can suck chakra out of people, like absorb people's chakra. Sasuke fights him in the first round of the Chunin exams, if I remember correctly. He's one of the sound ninja, right? So maybe Haku does actually literally distribute his body, or like transmute his body into the ice. And it's not just like, you know, an illusory reflection. That he is literally actually distributed amongst all these places. And then when he wants to actually attack, then he solidifies himself in one of the mirrors and then dashes to the other one, right? Like, he makes this one his real body, almost like these are doppelgangers. Like, he spreads himself out amidst these doppelgangers, and then he simply chooses, okay, this doppelganger is going to be my real one now, and goes like that. And then once he's in the mirrors, he's distributed again. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's ever really explicitly explained with that amount of detail. So I think there's an amount of creativity that we have to apply when trying to understand it. But I do kind of like that explanation also. Saria says Haku played too much Link Between Worlds and decided he wanted to try being 2D2. Yeah, I think that's what he's doing, right? He's just like solving the puzzle, but the puzzle is this kid is alive and I don't want him to be anymore. But yeah, like, he's basically entering another dimension, literally and figuratively. The interesting thing to me, though, is I don't know if this is just Kishimoto, like, a limitation of the way that he chose to draw this, but, I mean, this, if they are all equal reflections and they're all facing Sasuke, then, excuse me, then I think the orientation of this guy and the orientation of that guy are like, those copies are incorrect, right? They should all be the same orientation. So I wonder about that. It kind of looks like he's standing on the ceiling and then like arcing his back up a little to look down, which more starts to resemble like a doppelganger situation as opposed to a just like a reflection illusion. But this, I think, also is an excellent example of a blitz, because Sasuke only seems to become aware of being attacked by Haku after the fact, right? It looks like Haku just kind of like silently gets into position and crouches and gets ready to move, but doesn't actually do anything until, or Sasuke doesn't respond to anything he does until after he gets cut. So it doesn't look like Sasuke was able to perceive the attack coming or anything like that. I think this is a classic example of a blitz, as well as all this stuff too. So honestly, yeah, I don't, it is kind of weird to me that that Kakashi is just like standing there letting that happen? Like, why wouldn't he fight back? Does he really think that Zabuza can actually kill Sakura and Tazuna before he managed to do anything? Did he just give up? I mean, I think the answer again is probably like, so that we have the drama of the fight in the ice mirrors, we just focus on that, because otherwise Kakashi might be able to come in there and just end the fight. I think that's what it is, right? It's like if he goes in there to end the fight, then Zabuza will stay out here and kill them. So basically, like, they're just kind of like letting them figure their shit out. But what Kakashi should be doing is killing Zabuza as soon as possible and then going in to save Sasuke, right? And here we go, like, Sakura actually tries to do something. Let's see. Darth Magog says, yeah, I think the ice mirrors are a pocket dimension, probably not meant for long-term usage. Yeah, that's, I think I like that approach for sure. And I think it requires a lot of chakra to maintain, not just to set them up, right? So, I bet it requires, yeah, a lot of chakra and genetics for some reason. Genes in Naruto are so fucked. Sometimes you can do stuff like this. Sometimes you might be a bloodbender. Sometimes you get to use your bones as a weapon. Be careful not to marry a total freak. Yeah, I don't know. I would the freaks kind of do it for me, honestly. So, but no, yeah, like I think this is one of those things where maybe we're meant to kind of not have a clear explanation, and maybe that's supposed to kind of add to the mystique of it. But as we try to understand this better, you know, Haku himself seems to solidify and grab the kunai, and then, but while this version of him is doing that, the other version of him is still in the mirror, right? So it's not like every single entity in the mirror is always appearing to do the same thing, right? If that makes any sense. So he's like basically projecting an image on the mirror, on all the different mirrors, but he himself is only ever in one. So that's where the illusion comes from. I think that's what this is telling us here. But anyway. Honestly, ninja culture is insane, says Darth Magog. Wow, that guy has a sentient nuclear warhead in his stomach. Could destroy us at any time. Let's bully him. Yeah, let's just like leave him to live on a swing and eat like expired milk and ramen. Like, have him be horribly malnourished and ostracized. That seems like a good idea. That definitely, you know, the incarnation of hatred that we put into his belly definitely won't be affected by his, like, teeming, repressed internal hatred and resentment and loneliness, right, guys? I guess this has been debunked now, but, like, I liked the, I don't actually know. I've heard that it's true. I'm not sure if it's true, but like I like the narrative of Hiruzen actually just like being a terrible foster dad and like not at all knowing what to do with the kid, which is a little bit awkward, I suppose. Of course he had kids. I was gonna say did he have kids, but he had Asuma at least, and then fucking Konohamaru as well as his grandson. Okay. So let's see. So Sakura manages to throw it in. Haku catches it. And then in comes a shuriken. And so this is kind of interesting to me, right? Is that like when we talk about characters, about like Haku being able to move at the speed of light between mirrors, this is fucking weird. Haku hears the sound of the shuriken coming in, presumably, sees it coming, doesn't want to get hit by it, I would guess, gets hit by it anyway, and falls out and actually lands outside of his mirror, outside of the entire prison thing, which would give Sasuke a chance to leave potentially if he acted right now, because now Haku is outside of the whole like matrix of them, which is weird. So when people say Haku is light speed, I'm wondering, does that mean that Naruto was throwing his shuriken faster than light? Or is there some other reason why Haku is not moving fast enough to get out of this? And there's two explanations that are not mutually exclusive. One is that he's not the speed of light, which I mean he's not in my opinion. But anyway, the other one, the less edgy one, is that if he wants to move at the speed of light, he specifically has to start in one mirror and then pick another mirror that he's going to and kind of line himself up and be like, okay, that's where I want to be now. And when he travels specifically between one mirror and the next mirror, that particular movement can be at the speed of light because it's essentially a teleportation technique. It's essentially body flicker, but it's body flicker that's like enhanced by like travel between the two different locations by the reflectivity of the mirror or whatever else, right? So maybe that is actually getting up that fast. If there's any way to get Haku to the speed of light, to me, it's specifically when he's like shooming between two of his mirrors in a predefined trajectory in a dash. But once he starts fucking around, like once he starts poking his head out, once he starts doing anything else, he can't do that anymore because now he's sort of outside of the influence of the mirrors, right? Now his head is out. In order to do this, he would have to kind of like grossly, like wetly slurp back into the mirror and then like get ready and then go and do his dash, right? So it's basically like he has like a light speed dash technique that he can activate and execute, but he can only do so under very specific circumstances. That is one way of reconciling those statements in the data book, and that I guess we're doing a light speed stream after all. But anyway, that's one way of reconciling those statements in the data book, while also not getting into like weird Naruto and Sasuke are so the speed of light scaling as well, because then you can just say whenever it was that Haku got intercepted by them, it was in an event like this where he was distracted or outside the mirrors or just kind of fucked up for a second or whatever. But I mean, like, also you can look at this as some plot-induced stupidity for Sasuke. I know he's all cut and bloodied up. I know he's having a bad day, but like he should really get the fuck out of there, like right now. Like Haku just got knocked in the head with a shuriken, knocked onto the floor, and so now all Sasuke has to do is like roll to the right a few times and he'll be out of the prison. Maybe he figures that Haku would just like make it again anyway, but I don't know. I feel like this is the time to strike. But again, probably we're supposed to just be like, well, he just got like really messed up and he's probably taking a minute to recover, so maybe I'm being unfair. Let's take a look at this this thing over here. I'm curious what we can learn about Sakura. This is how I first imagined Sakura. Let's face it, she's really not that cute, is she? I don't know. It's kind of weird to say, especially back then. But that was mostly because I'm not that good with female characters in general, so making one of them cute is always a big challenge for me. When my editor, those around me, and even my own staff saw this design and read her personality profile, they all assured me that Sakura was far from cute. It's weird. But I have my own reasons for being especially fond of Sakura, both in how she's designed and in her personality. I believe everyone possesses an inner Sakura-type voice in their heart, including things like her entirely arbitrary choice of love object. I think it gives her a real humanity that's pretty sweet. There's a lot more to being a good female manga character than just cuteness, you know. At least that's my excuse. The troublemakers and curmudgeons I can draw without breaking a sweat, but girls are really hard. That's actually kind of endearing. That's cool. See, I don't know. I think this is maybe what he's talking about, but that kind of looks charming to me, honestly. Like, I know it's not traditionally cute or whatever, maybe the way that some of this stuff is going for, but yeah, I don't know. I think that he's given her quite a bit of personality over the years. Let's see. Darth Magog says, Hiruzen is probably in my bottom 3 of Hokage, not in strength, but in leadership ethics. Yeah. He's, it's weird because, like, he seems to be played up by the story as being this loving kind of grandfather figure who he loves everybody in the village and he takes such good care of everybody. And he's, but you know, I mean, when you actually look at what he does, it's not so great. Sorry says, take care of Naruto. Take care of Naruto. You can count on me. Minato seeing Hiruzen when they resurrected Zeto. Bro, half of my chakra was inside Naruto. Why weren't you taking care of my kid? Kushina is furious. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. No, 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 you don't understand. If I left him alone and totally neglected him and made him feel like an outcast, that would make Kurama stronger, and that would also guarantee that he would learn to talk no jutsu Kurama, and I basically you can thank me for KCM too, motherfucker. Okay, so like, did which one of us did a better job raising your son? Me, who ostracized him and filled him with a demonic force and then like made him miserable and then eventually led to him getting KCM too, or you who died? Which one of us was a better dad? Honestly, it was still Minato. So let's see. Darth Magog said, "Here's in when the children of war heroes are orphaned. I mustn't show favoritism. Here's in when his bestie is committing high treason. Oh, that wacky dance." He's maybe not the most consistent. Here's in when a 12-year-old boy uses the transformation jutsu and nearly dies of a fucking nosebleed, leading to the boy stealing a forbidden scroll. And then, I think I showed you guys on stream this before, right? Like, a group of people, including someone from the Akamichi clan who looks like Choza, get together and say, let's kill him. They all say, let's kill Naruto. Let's murder him. And Hiruzen's like, whatever. I mean, I can't talk you out of it, clearly. So, you know, if Iruka hadn't found him and talked him down, then, like, yeah. Like, if Iruka had just, like, slept through all that or something, if Mizuki had never gone and told him about it, then one of the other villagers might actually have killed Naruto, and Hiruzen would have let it happen, too, which is fucked up. Darth Magog says, "I'm really not that good with female characters in general. You don't say, Kishimoto sensei, understatement of the fucking century." Yeah. Look, he definitely tried, especially in, when in part one, there are female characters who did some awesome things and had cool personalities and went through character arcs, and yet I think he's like vaguely Kojima-esque in that if you look back on a lot of Kojima's early works, especially, I think Kojima, like somebody in the office who had a girlfriend, described what like women are like to Kojima in Morse code in another language, which he didn't quite fully understand, and so he tried to like create like, oh, this is what a woman is like, right? This is what they talk like. This is what they act like. That was a lot of his early stuff, and like then I don't know if you played Metal Gear Solid 5. I really like that game. I think it's a great game. The character of Quiet is fucking weird. For whatever reason, I think that Kojima genuinely thought that he was creating an empowered, kick-ass, badass female character, and the fact that she was nearly naked the whole time and couldn't speak the whole time, this you don't understand. It's actually a perfectly designed empowered female character because she's totally vulnerable, and her vulnerability is her strength. So when she takes sexy showers in the cage in the middle of Mother Base, like surrounded by a bunch of like horny soldier dudes who are watching her through the bars with no privacy, that's actually very empowering for her because she's so confident that she's not worried about her appearance at all. You know, stuff like that. And no, she can breathe through her skin, which is why she never can't ever wear clothes except bra because censorship. But otherwise, she would be totally naked out there, right? Because that's how. It's you could tell he was trying. You could tell, like, in his head, like, Quiet is a fucking badass Amazon warrior woman, and there's nothing creepy or weird about her depiction at all. But also, yeah. Also, maybe, and I'm not even getting to the stuff that, the more intense stuff later on. It gets weird. Yeah. I think that Kishimoto also tried, like the fight where the moment with Sakura in the Forest of Death where she cuts her hair, right? It's really fucking badass. Like, she decides, you know what, I'm going to sort of set aside childish things. I'm going to do something that changes me visually, but also like thematically. She's not using those terms in her head, obviously, but like she's like, yes, I'm going to make this change, make this sacrifice, and do it to defend people that I care about, and I'm going to face death head on. It's super badass. And then she's like, you know, runs directly or like falls directly into the kunai and shuriken that Sound Ninja are throwing at her, and she just like bites her and she goes like feral. It's really cool, and it's such a courageous moment for her. And then the fight with Sasori as well, but also like the major fight that she has is the Ino and the fight between Ino and Sakura, and that kind of felt a lot like. Can somebody please send me an email with a list of things that girls like so that I can write a comic about that, because I don't know and I'm afraid to ask. Like, it does kind of come across that way. But anyway, I might be being too harsh, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Hey, how's it going? Is it Abonenten? Am I saying that right? Abonenten? Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the stream. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we're just talking about, well, ostensibly we're talking about the Sharingan, but we're also talking about Haku and Kishimoto. We were responding, I don't know if you saw it, but we were talking about this blurb in the bottom of chapter 24, where Kishimoto kind of explains his character design for Sakura and his approach to that. So, talking about female representation. Let me know if you have any comments, or like who your favoritely rendered female Naruto character might be. Personally, I like Anko a lot. I wish she had more screen time. I think she's one of the ones in chapter 1 that definitely like stood out to me as, I hope this person gets more screen time. And there are others like Temari. Temari's great. And I'm sure Conan's pretty cool. But anyway, I'm not really all that good with female characters. Oh yeah, I read that. Saria says, "Let's kill him." Wait, don't. We have to. I guess I did all I could do. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Darth Magog says, "Admittedly, Kishimoto can write female characters, but only if they're grandma." Shout out to Granny Chio and Princess Suna. Yeah. So Chio is really great. Her whole arc is quite satisfying. Genuinely would like to know from female readers of the show. Well, I'd like to know what you guys think in general, whoever's listening to this, but I think especially from a female's perspective, I want to know how people feel about the fact that Tsunade is like part of her, the caveat of her ability is that she's like hiding her age. Because I know that, like, obviously there's a trope anyway, there's a stereotype that like women are more concerned with their appearance and aging than men are. I don't know if it's true. On average, I haven't done a study of it or whatever. But it feels like one of those things where it could either be like, oh, cool, so he is, the author is kind of exploring this thing that women deal with and making it an active part of Tsunade's life experience, which is really cool. Or it could be like, again, hey Siri, can you tell me like what are women afraid of? Oh, okay, they don't like aging. Okay, so I'll put that in, right? Like, and I don't know what the more like fair-handed or even-handed reading of it is. So I'd be curious what you guys think. But I think she's a great character overall. She especially again like she has so many badass moments, and her struggle with her inner adversity and overcoming that is really fucking cool. I think she's a very well-defined, very well-made character. There's just that one thing that's a little bit odd, I suppose. Sorry says, I hate Quiet so much. Yeah, I don't hate her as a person within the world, if that makes sense, but the way that she was designed and represented, like, just thinking about the process that led to the creation of that character feels really weird to me. But, I mean, feel free to share more if you like. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about her overall. Shizune was robbed. Oh yeah, Shizune. Yeah, absolutely. She needed more. She has like a line in the 4th data book that's like, Shizune was, one of the most talented or skilled medical ninja ever, and she saved countless lives during the war. They almost like play her up to be a war hero and like a very legendary doctor. So I feel like, I don't know why she didn't come up in Boruto at all, unless I just missed it. But yeah, she's basically a hero. So. Let's see. Desperately need more development. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree there. Abonenten says, don't talk about screen time. 1010 misses no screen time. Actually has more screen time than the most wanted criminal. Oh, God, yeah. Well, that's saying something, too, right? 1010 is, like, barely on screen after the, I guess it's nice that they gave her something to do in the war, like, the only thing that I really know about her is that she's been established as a weapons expert, and so when it gets to the war and there's like a really cool weapon that's lying around, I guess it makes sense that they would give it to her. But we don't really see her do that much with it, at least in the manga. Maybe they do more in the anime. Like she uses it once or twice and kills Kakuzu's hearts, or at least one of his hearts, right? And then she's immediately exhausted by it because it drains all her chakra, and it feels like, okay, did did she go back and start using it again after Naruto gave her KCM chakra? Because that would have been cool. Like she she finally manages to spend all this time like learning weapons use, and then she's rewarded like karmically, so to speak, with access to one of the tools of the Sage of Six Paths, and is able to use that to help turn the tide of the war. But I don't think that happens. Even fucking in Kakashi Retsuden, and the anime adaptation in Boruto, there's like, or actually no, it's in Kakashi Retsuden, not Sasuke Retsuden, so it's not in the anime. But there's like this little kid who, like the princess of Redaku, right? Like she has a tool from the Sage of Six Paths that lets her control the weather, although she's not using it right. But yeah, basically, even random people who aren't even shinobi can use Sage of Six Paths tools, but apparently Ten, the trained shinobi and a weapons expert, only gets to use like a couple charges of it. Uh, that's unfortunate. They even made her Naruto's assistant, and now she's. Oh, that sucks. I didn't know that. Is that in the Boruto anime? I don't remember even seeing her in the manga, but I might have missed her. Abonenten says, personally, Mei, the Mizukage in the war was actually good. Okay, yeah, I think she does quite a bit. I mean, initially she's kind of like guarding the what are they called? The why am I blanking on the word? The lords, the I forget what the term for the daimyo. Yeah, they're like guarding the daimyo, right? But then when she shows up to the war, she starts like helping out quite a bit, and she's involved in the clashes with Madara, which is really impressive. Also, like her fight against Sasuke is really cool. The fact that after everything the Raikage did just to try to get through the Susanoo, she's able to just melt it away. Like that makes her a very terrifying combatant. So again, like in character design overall and ability set overall is like really cool. But then there's other characters though, like no shade if you like these characters, but like Mabui and Samui and Atsui and stuff like that, like some of the Cloud Village characters that just kind of get like churned out very quickly, and one of the attendants of the Tsuchikage as well, they just don't get as much time to really you know words be developed. I guess. Let's see. But if you use your common sense, why would Sakura cut her own hair when somebody grabbed her? She could have stabbed the girl's hand. Yeah, that probably would have been better. We could take a look at that chapter actually. But I think, honestly, I think it's one of those things that might not tactically make as much sense as it does, like thematically. You know what I mean? Like, the goal of that scene might have been more like just trying to illustrate the fact that, I mean, if Sakura takes pride in and is protective of her quote unquote pretty girl hair, for lack of a better phrasing, then her being willing to sacrifice that kind of indicates thematically that she's like no longer thinking about her appearance and about, I guess, like more juvenile pursuits or whatever, and is taking a step more towards adulthood. Not in oh right, we're gonna need to come back to here later. Not fully adult, because they're still like 12 obviously, but like in becoming a shinobi and growing up and maturing, like right before this, like let's take a look here, right? So right before this, Sakura sees Sasuke and Naruto be owned by Orochimaru. She doesn't really do anything. They're both like wounded and she's scared and she's crying, right? And her headband is basically being used as a hair accessory when you think about it, right? Like a lot of the times, Kishimoto finds different creative ways to let characters put on their put on their headbands in order to kind of reflect their personality. Like we'll just keep an eye out for it as we go. Like I think Lee wears it as a belt, and I think what's his name, like Hinata wears it as a collar. Once you start to get to like more full-fledged ninja, they tend to all wear it as a headband. and not everybody does. Like Neji wears it on his forehead, and so does Tenten. But there are some characters who wear it in like more custom locations, right? But here we go. Like so Sakura didn't actually really participate in the fight in a major way. And now what she's doing is she's just sort of like tending to them, caring to them. She has a sort of like motherly role, which a lot of female ninjas are described as having in the data books. Is it? Oh, it's Guy who's hanging out back there. I never noticed that before. You know, and she's just sort of like taking care of them. And let's wait until we see what happens. Just want to see. Okay, so yeah, here we have an intro panel of Ino. And the way that she tries to introduce herself is like, again, with feminine charms and taking off her hairband and displaying her full hair as part of her charm and allure or whatever, which is a bit of a rivalry that she has going on with Sakura, right? So let's see. So now she's very tired. She's shaking. But actually, she set up a trap. Okay, I forgot about that. She set up a trap overnight for them. Was just waiting for the opportunity to do so, which is kind of impressive. Like, they were watching her the whole time, but she still manages to find an opportunity to set this up somehow. They're calling her a no talent, slacker, etc. So here Lee comes in and saves her, and it kind of looks like, you know, he gets to fulfill his prince saving the damsel in distress thing. But I mean, like, Sakura isn't going to just sit back and let that happen. She's going to participate as well. Lee pulls this shit, which is awesome, and manages to see through the illusion, etc., etc. So skipping ahead just a little bit. Okay, let me take a quick look at chat as well. I don't want to be ignoring you guys. So, Darth Magog said, "I wonder if that's part of the point. She had the book smarts, but didn't have the horse with the horse sense to be a competent ninja, and that was part of her evolution." Yeah, exactly. I'm not familiar with the phrase horse sense, but I love it, and I'm going to have to use it now. Abonensen says, but more screen time doesn't mean more impact on the story, because the revolutionary dragon, even if he has like half the screen time of Tenten, is impact in God Valley. Who's the revolutionary dragon? I'm not familiar with that phrase. I'm probably just blanking on something. Shooting celestial dragons, saving Shanks and Shanok and Kuma, and leading. Oh, is this One Piece? I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar with One Piece stuff. I know Dragon Ball, but I don't really know much about One Piece. But yeah, basically what you're saying is that you can still be on screen for very little time, but have a profound impact on the narrative and on other characters. Then yeah, absolutely. Honestly, Haku is barely in the story, and Zabuza as well, but they help form Naruto's ninja creed, and he makes a decision after their fight that impacts not only his journey for the rest of his life, but also the journeys of anybody else that he winds up, this is adorable, that he winds up coming across as well. So yeah, you can have a lot of influence, even though you're not on screen a whole lot. Although I do wish that, like, we were talking about this before, so I've talked about Kakuzu a lot on stream, and I wish that, you know, personally, we got more time with characters like Kakuzu and like Kimimaro during the war, right? Like, Kimimaro is somebody who's barely on screen at all, and you feel like given like the way that he was built up as a character, in Orochimaru's eyes and his significance to the rest of the Sound Ninja, that he would have some kind of like a finality that was brought back up during the war. That would be super satisfying and awesome to see. But we barely see him. I think we see him clash with like Naruto once, right, during the war, and then he's just kind of like not there. There's a bunch of characters that were brought back, and then it's kind of like, if you're not going to expand on them, then why are they even here? Even Kakuzu, like, Kakuzu does some stuff, but we wind up spending time with characters like Kin and Gin, which are not bad characters per se, but like, I would have much rather have had all of the pages that got spent on Kin and Gin be given to Kimimaro, for example, just to have like that arc closed in a more satisfying way, you know. Horse, did someone say horse? Faster than light horse. Yes, exactly. Every horse in Naruto is faster than light. We know this because we read the manga. Shooting Celestial. Oh yeah, I haven't watched a Red One Piece. Yeah, that is correct. I have not watched a Red One Piece. I have only seen a couple like memes and clips. I did recently watch a clip that was, I think his name was Garp doing. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get the name wrong. Like Meteor Fist, Meteor Punch, or something like that. And so I have seen some really great animation come out of the series, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. But it's just kind of intimidating. Like it, I've thought about giving it a shot, but it's like over 1,000 chapters, right? And I find that to be kind of a lot to commit to. Um, and also, to be honest, like Luffy's character design is, this is nothing against the manga itself, but I have a thing where I just really hate like characters with stretchy arms, like Elastigirl. We talked about this before. Like Elastigirl is like an exception. I'll make an exception for that. But like Gumby and like I know there's others where I can't deal with the stretchy. It's weird. It's totally personal. It's nothing to do with the anime being bad or anything like that. But yeah, I just haven't been able to get into it. Let's see. Garp, he's Luffy's grandpa, hero of the Marines. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, he seemed like I don't know if much about him as a character, but the way that he was basically using that meteor attack to save one of his, is it crew members or one of his students or something like that. That was awesome. Of course, I was a little confused because he seemed to destroy the entire the entire town, which his student was in. But I clearly am not getting the full context for it. But yeah, that was a great scene. I like that. So Sakura here, not to downplay her, jumps in and keeps on fighting even though Lee has been defeated, right? And at this point, Lee was able to like handle Sasuke. So Sasuke is out, Naruto is out, and Lee is out, and Sakura is still going for it, right? She's not like begging for mercy, she's not running, she is standing her ground and fighting back. But let's go over here. So Ino and Sakura have a back and forth with each other. They're both rivals, and Ino in this instance, look at the difference between Ino and Sakura as a character. They are both friends. They've been childhood friends. They have a bit of a rivalry going, and in this moment, she is arguing loudly with Shikamaru as to why they should not go into battle and save her friend. Meanwhile, Sakura, even though she genuinely doesn't think that she can win, she doesn't think she's going to be able to beat them, she's still trying. She's still gritting her like eyes with determination. She's still throwing shuriken. She's trying to deal with the situation as best she can. So keep in mind here that both of her close companions are wounded, and the knight in shining armor who was supposed to save her has also been taken out, and she's exhausted. She's been up all night, and she's wounded. And now after all of that, she gets into this given situation here. She's kind of like put on the ground. She's sitting down on the ground with the character's arm above her, like. Darth Magog says, alright, gotta drop off my friend's dinner time. May the force be with you all. And you as well, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you have a great dinner and a great rest of your weekend. I will look forward to seeing you and to seeing your videos upcoming. Good luck with everything. Take care. Saria says he seemed to destroy the entire town. America. a true patriot, that guy. Abonenten says, don't be intimidated by the characters or episodes. I started and ended Naruto earlier this year within 3 months, and now I watched like more than 500 episodes in less than 2 months. Whoa, that's actually pretty impressive. That's a lot of content. You know what? Honestly, I should at least try it, because it's one of those things where it's such a big part of the anime history and culture and the discussion and everything. I should at least try it so that I know a little bit about the world. So I will give it a shot. And again, if I haven't, or if the fact that I have not yet is not a reflection on like I think it's bad or anything like that. It's just a measure. Words are hard sometimes. A measure of the amount of time that I have put into it and the aesthetic, I guess. It was really hard to say for some reason. But yeah, I'll check it out. How are you liking Naruto? I'm assuming that you came to Naruto from first being a One Piece fan and kind of like switched over. How is it stacking up in your estimation? Do you enjoy it? Do you think the characters are equally compelling even though they're different? I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Um, yeah, so I think it's important to try to understand what's going through Sakura's head right now, and let's keep in mind that we were just told about her relationship with Ino and their rivalry and all that over Sasuke specifically. And let's see what I always forget her name. What she says. Lovely hair, so much more bounce and shine than mine has. What ninja technique is that? The art of deep conditioning. You're a disgrace to all shinobi, fussing with your looks when you should concentrate on your training. And now she's like being grabbed roughly and painfully from behind. And then she says, Zaku, why don't you finish off Sasuke, one of her other fallen heartthrobs, right in front of this lovesick little pig? Least we can do is entertain her. And she says here, I can't summon any strength. So she is actually trying to get up. She's trying to push back, but she's been forced down to the ground. And she's exhausted and she's scared. And also she's resentful of that fact. She's gotten to this point that she's totally broken and she wants to help the people that she cares about. And remember, like, Haku taught Naruto about how true strength arises when you are defending the people that you love. And Kakashi has said similar things. So now she wants to step into that. She doesn't want to simply be in the support role forever. She wants to actively protect them. 1 second though. Why is this blurred out? 53. Is this some kind of weird censorship thing? Okay, let's see. No, it's blurred out there too. Unless it's censored there too. That's really weird. They just didn't draw his legs? Huh. Wonder why that is. Anyway, she says, I thought this time would be different. Sasuke's seal is starting to smoke and fizzle. And now Sakura does this. And again, like, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting her name. And she says, your tricks are useless against me, little girl. And she says, you think so? And then she cuts off her hair. Now, she could have tried to cut off this girl's, good grief, he's naked. Could have tried to cut off this girl's arm. But it's probably going to be more difficult to cut off the arm because then she's aiming for the other person, and if the other person sees that happening, she's gonna like pivot and move around and stuff like that, or push her down. But if she's aiming for her own hair, well, then that removes the foothold, right? The hold that the other character has on her. Like, she could disconnect her hand and then re-grab with the other hand, but if she cuts off her hair, then even if this opponent re-grabs with her other hand, it's not going to help because there's not enough hair to grab onto, right? So Sakura specifically here, like thematically and all that, is not just breaking free of her opponent's grasp. She's specifically changing her body so that it's less vulnerable. She's specifically making this choice to be like, you're not going to do this shit to me again. This is the last time you get away with this shit. And I'm going to make this change permanently so that you don't, so that I don't have this weakness, because I'm acknowledging that it is a weakness and I want to get rid of it. I want to move past my own weakness, right? So that's really what this moment is about. And it kind of humbles, as well. Let's see. You watched Naruto before starting One Piece. Okay. You forgot this character existed. Yeah, exactly. This is a character that not a whole lot of people know about. It's called Sakura. Kind of an under used, forgotten character that only really comes up later. That only gets shown, in early Naruto days. So, Abonenton says, One Piece is not about powers, it's more about world building. And the fights are rather funny. Luffy literally tried to eat his opponent because his physical attack didn't work. That's actually really funny. It's kind of like a Majin Buu thing where he can turn him into a chocolate and eat him like that. I don't know, the way that people describe One Piece, I only really hear people talk about the battles, but that's probably because I'm just on that particular part of the internet, right? So would you say it compares to, if you've seen Dragon Ball, would you say it compares to Dragon Ball in terms of like how much fighting there is and how big of a focus there is, or is it more like Naruto where there's more like extended phases in between with like more politicizing and traveling and stuff like that. I guess part 2 Naruto is more combat focused. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, so Sakura here, her whole idea is that she's, taking the time to, she's sick and tired of sort of being a burden and being in the back, and she wants to lead from the front for now. She drops her headband on the floor, which is significant. Notice that she maintains her composure. She uses the art of substitution, right? And then this is the moment that I was talking about before about, like, doing the substitution, fooling them into thinking that she's going to do the substitution every time. She kind of, like, gives herself away with, like, the blood splatter. So, comes in, doesn't really do all that much damage, but still, like, keeps going, like, bites him, holds on, and again, like, kind of humbles Ino in the process. I see. Okay, so then there's this part here too, right? You hide behind all of that hair like a sheepdog or a shy little ghost because she's hiding her forehead and she's self-conscious about her appearance. And okay, so yeah, this is important too, right? Like, the reason why she wears her I think this is what Kishimoto's telling us, is that the reason why she wears her hitayate, is that what it's called, the headband, why she wears it up like that is because it's a reference to this bow that Ino gave her previously that was specifically designed to help her appreciate and accept her appearance and move away from hiding her forehead. Yeah, trying to get her to be more more proud of her own appearance and all that. Scanning through here real quick. Sasuke seems to like girls with long hair, so I'm going to grow mine. Yep, okay, so it's part of their rivalry, part of their friendship, and part of their connection, and her learning to accept herself as well. And notice that she doesn't change it even after becoming, after having this rivalry, after having this like pseudo animosity, she still doesn't take it off. So after doing nothing this entire time, then eventually, steps forward and decides to help. So I want to get back to the Sharingan in a second, but I want to see if we can find the moment. We can find the moment where she puts her headband on, because I think from this point forward, she keeps wearing it on her forehead as opposed to, sorry, I'm finding it difficult to multitask, but I think at this point, once she puts her forehead protector back on, it goes on her forehead and stays there. I just want to see when that happens. I love this so much. This is so adorable. Also, I guess Akamaru had a crush on somebody, and then these are the other ninja dogs or something. I love these little panels before the full-on chapters. But let's see if we can go and see where Sakura shows up. I mean, I think so. Maybe we don't need to go through all this, but yeah, should be here, right? Oh no, she does put it back on, like her ribbon from before. Okay. Oh yeah, here's the popularity contest thing. So let's take a look. First place is Hatake Kakashi with 22,000 votes. Second place is Naruto with 16,000. So Kakashi had 6,000 more votes than the fucking protagonist, and had was it 9,000 more votes than Sasuke, right? And then, but look at what a rapid drop off there is between Sasuke and poor Sakura. 13,000. Like, she loses 10,000 votes. But she's still more popular than Gaara, although Gaara had just been introduced. So, yeah, very interesting. Catching up on chat. Saria says, Ino is a good friend, not the greatest friend, but she's a good friend. She seems to be a little held back by her own personal interests. Like, she's not going to put her friendship first at first, but she does eventually come around. So she's flawed, but she is, still potentially good at heart. Abonenten says One Piece feels very different from Naruto. It cannot be compared in any way. It's like the opposite side of a coin. I cannot explain it without giving spoilers. Oh, cool. No, that's great. That's actually really interesting. It kind of makes me want to check it out more to see what the differences are. So that's actually really nice. I like that the series are not like trying to copy each other, so to speak, right? It feels like the creators also respect each other, and I think the creator of One Piece has done like some fan art for Naruto that showed up in one of the manga. So it's kind of cool that they have their relationship like that, and then they have their own niche that they found. So yeah, I'll be curious to see. I'm not gonna shout right now because I think my partner's on the phone, but Naruto. This is actually, you might actually find this cute. Sorry. Recently, the actor for Naruto's English voice actor and Naruto's Japanese voice actor did like a panel together, and they both, I think, said like Sasuke at the same time. It was really cute. I think her name is Mael. No, it's not. Hang on. Is it Maisie? One sec. Okay, Maylee Flanagan, right? I don't remember what I was gonna say. She's apparently like kind of a fangirl of the original like Japanese voice actor, and she like flew out specifically to meet her and just like spent the day with her. And the way that she talks about her, she's like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. It was like I spend my life around like celebrities. Like I have celebrity friends. Like I've been to like Oscar premieres and shit, and I've never once gotten starstruck or intimidated by anyone. It's just not anything that's been a thing for me. But then when I knew I was going to meet her, I was like, oh my god. And then the moment I met her, I was like, hi. It's just like, I think got off on the wrong foot a little bit because she was so nervous. It was so cute. Guess the principal. Who's the principal? Sorry, I think I like spaced out there. In some places like Arlong Park or Alabasta, you'll feel like the main scene is about to happen, but it's stretched and the main fight starts like after 10 or 12 episodes. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like it when there's like a buildup of tension. So, I've actually been playing a game, Silent Hill F, recently, that kind of feels the same way. That's like, you think you know where things are going to go, and then there's the level will continue, or you think there's going to be a boss fight, but then nothing will show up. I don't get jump scared very often, but that game has managed to jump scare me by convincing me that I was totally perfectly safe, and then all of a sudden it threw something at me. I was like, god damn it. It was really good. But yeah, like I love those like build-ups of tension and release and stuff like that. That's really cool. I have to check it out. More reason to check it out. Excuse me, why I'm so tired tonight. Oh, the principal. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about a school principal, and I was like, Uncle kind of counts, I guess. Iriko was on screen, so I was a little confused. Sorry about that. Okay, so of course Naruto just kind of like shows up and makes a scene, but at this point, Sasuke's still on the ground and Haku's kind of crouched as well. So let's see. Zabuza throws his shuriken, and Haku, it looks like they're coming for Naruto, and he was preparing to block them instead of dodging them, because of course. But Haku actually manages to outspeed Zabuza's shuriken with his Senbon and target them all accurately with pinpoint accuracy and knock them out of the air, which is pretty impressive. Sorry again for yawning. So I think if anything, Zabuza or Haku now decides that he's going to start holding back, right? Because I think he probably would have been willing to, well, maybe not actually, willing to kill. No, I was gonna say that he was willing to kill Sasuke up to this point, but then we get this line, and I guess that I am wrong about that. Willing, yes. Eager, no. and I hope the site doesn't go down again. But anyway, so let me zoom in a little bit here, bring this up a little bit. So Sasuke says, that guy naive, yeah, look at me. Look, it's like I'm being cut to ribbons by 1,000 needles, but the cuts are all superficial. He's killing me by inches, saving the vital targets and the death blow for later. Okay, so he is kind of drawing it out, but I can't figure out what technique he's using. His doppelgangers all hide within the mirrors and then strike simultaneously. I don't even see him move. He strikes before I can spot his weapon's trajectory. Okay, so he's using that term doppelganger, which I'm assuming is bunshin in the original Japanese, but I'm not sure. And so it does look like he views them as his clones, which is interesting. It can't just be the art of the doppelganger. Every time I say something, then there's a line that qualifies what I said. It can't just be the art of the doppelganger. The ice mirrors are a part of this somehow, but I can't figure out their significance. Whatever's going on, the mirrors must be the key, okay? Looks like my only chance to concentrate on the battle here and trust Naruto to set me free from outside. And of course, he shows up. So, at this point, Sasuke could leave, but he's gonna try to figure out the deal with the mirrors. He's gonna trust Naruto to keep up the fight from the outside. Naruto says it totally ruins it, of course. Okay, so again, like, Haku physically steps up and enters the mirror, and it does kind of seem like he's just entering like a Kamui type thing. Like, we see this same kind of thing when, what's his name, Obito, like, phases through something, right, where parts of his anatomy are just sort of disappearing into the surface. But now this is interesting. So Sasuke thinks he has divined the location of the real body, but Haku is actually at a different location from behind and manages to attack and blitz him again before he can do anything. So tries fireball, doesn't work, and again we have that like gleam effect and that same thing with the kind of blitzing both characters. Okay, your eyes. Okay, so this is interesting. I want to try to think about this. Your eyes will never see the truth. I can't be caught. Okay, so maybe at this point it is possible for them to figure out which mirror is the real one, and there is actually one physical copy and the rest are just illusions, but they're never going to be able to figure out the real one because they don't have a means of doing so. So let's see if that winds up holding to be true. Naruto decides to attack them and clobber them, and this is something that I think is worth, we do actually like start to get a little bit more information about how this technique works. So we see Haku coming out of the mirror, and we do see like the movement of this like glob of water, and although the camera position is changing, it might actually be possible to get some sort of a calc out of this. But either way, like, Haku goes over here, across and around Naruto. There's that same glob of water, so it's nice. It's kind of showing us the camera like panning around, and we can use the water glob as a reference point. Haku manages to go on all these trajectories between the mirrors, and then goes back into the mirror, turns around, faces forward, and then it hits the ground. So what you could glean from this, actually, and I don't really feel the need to to like pull out the fucking TI-83 right here, but potentially what you could do if you wanted to calculate this, or wanted to get a calc for this, is you could say, okay, this water glob over here is maybe like a foot or two, let's just say 2 feet above the ground, right? And Haku manages to go, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if you were to get like the maximum distance between two of the mirrors, like let's say, like this looks like the longest distance right here, right? If you were to get that and just calc that, if you said that that was like 20 feet, maybe, it's maybe more than that. So highball it, say 50 feet. And then you were to say, okay, if the highest, let's say that he does that like 20 times, that's 100 feet, right? Haku manages to travel 100 feet. He does so in the amount of time that it takes this water to hit the ground. Then you could potentially have like a speed feat for Haku. So if this takes like half of a second, he goes 100 feet in half a second or something like that, then you get a vague ballpark thing. The problem with that, though, is that if you look at the way that this water glob is portrayed, it's basically seems to be in the same place the whole time while Haku is moving, and then Haku touches the mirror and goes back into the mirror, and then it falls. So it's almost like what we're being told is that Haku manages to do all of this before the water glob like falls perceptibly. If you even look, like Kishimoto also included the details of like there's this one over here, there's that one, there's a couple of other little ones over there. So you could potentially, and he redrew it over here too. So it's like a cluster of water globs, and it's the same ones from different angles too, right? So it doesn't really look like these are really moving a whole lot until there. So that might be some evidence. I lack the math skills to really be able to dissect that, but I feel like somewhere in here, if people want to break this down, there is some kind of scaling that we could glean regarding Haku's speed. And usually when I hear people talk about Haku's speed, I don't hear them talk about the water globe or about like this feat. It's usually just the databook stuff, right? So worth looking into here. Let me check out chat real quick. Oh, hey, Real Man Yagami. How's it going? Thank you so much for stopping by. Haku, best girl. Yeah. Haku, I'm sure just like Naruto, I'm sure that Haku was either an awakening or at least an intriguing a bit of curiosity for for some younger readers. And it, I don't know. I think, I just noticed actually the way that his foot is kind of angled over here is kind of weird. I'm curious how folks feel about like Haku from the perspective of a queer character, although Haku himself like describes himself as a boy, and I remember talking about this on stream before, but I read this book. I think it was literally just called like Understanding Japanese Culture. I said read, it was an audiobook that I listened to. You could probably find it on Audible. I can see if I can look it up if you're interested. And one of the chapters in it was describing like Japanese concepts of beauty. And so for men to be quote unquote beautiful, like in America and North America anyway, the traditional imagery associated with masculinity is like sort of, at least right now, is big muscles, not necessarily huge, but relatively well built, certain kind of grooming standards, certain kind of hair, certain kind of dress, etc. But usually like what is considered manly, if you just close your eyes and think of what you picture when I say manly, you probably think of like, I don't know, a lumberjack or something like that, right? Like buff, fit, trim sort of dude, a firefighter or something like that, right? That's sort of a traditional archetype. But according to this book that I read anyway, in Japan, there are multiple ways, like traditionally, for men to be beautiful. And so, yeah, that sort of lumberjack look is one of them, but also what we might refer to as like the Justin Bieber, I guess, like teen idol sort of look is also just as beautiful and not just considered that way by women, but by other men. And the example I think that came up was like the idea of like Benkei and Yoshizune, and the way that, like, if I remember correctly, Benkei represented like the more traditional gruff, manly man sort of beauty, but Yoshizune represented more of the, I guess you would call it feminine in our society, but like it's not just feminine, right? It's just another aspect of being male. It's a different aspect. So all that is sort of me kind of clumsily trying to say that Haku, I think, like, from a Western perspective, we look at Haku and we say, like, this is clearly a girl, or like a girl presenting boy, or a girly boy, but that's our particular cultural bias. And actually, Haku is very, very masculine. He's actually really masculine, but it's a different kind of masculinity, right? It's a kind of masculinity that is similar to femininity, a specific kind of femininity. It was a really interesting kind of perspective on it. So, yeah, I like Haku. Sorry says, hey, audiobooks are reading. Yeah, sorry. Hey, audiobooks are reading. You can say you read it. They're there to help people who don't have the time or who struggle with the reading process, so it's reading. You're right. I don't know why I'm so self conscious about that. It's such a random thing. I guess because I think reading is more like earned if you do it with your eyes, but that doesn't really make any sense. And by eyes, I could also mean like braille, right? That would be fine too. It doesn't have to be like literally eyes. I mean, sitting down there and focusing on this thing and not having any distractions and dedicating yourself to the art of reading. Or I could just like put some shit on my headphones while I'm like cleaning the house and walking the dog. Something about that in my head makes me feel like I'm taking the easy way out. I don't know. But you're right. I think that's just a prejudice. Um, Saria says, your eyes will never see the truth. Mangekyo can see abstract concepts confirmed. Exactly. You can see, like, the truth is that the characters themselves are in a manga, so the mangekyo can see past the borders of the manga, which means that they have boundless combat potential, which means that Naruto can casually, or Sasuke anyway, can casually just like reach out and punch the entirety of DC and Marvel and other manga with a flick of his hand, and just annihilate every other verse. So yeah, sorry, you're right. I couldn't even get through saying it all with a straight face. Oh my god. But yeah, so I like that idea that like Haku isn't like a feminine man. He is a very masculine man, but like the definition of masculinity that applies to him is just different from what we would think of. Right? Um, Again, like I don't know if it's true. I don't know if that's something like part of me is like it feels kind of weird to think that that would be the case in modern day, but I don't know. It just got me thinking anyway. Haku says the technique I'm using is part of the art of teleportation. So that's interesting. My understanding, although I haven't looked into this too deep, is that the art of teleportation that characters refer to in part one is a semi-awkward translation of the phrase or the name shunshin, which is the body flicker technique. And the body flicker technique is explained as basically being like you dump a lot of chakra into your body and you use it to physically translocate your body so that it moves very, very fast. So it's not actually teleportation. Teleportation would be something like the summoning jutsu or like flying Raijin. When Haku here is saying art of teleportation, what he's saying is I'm moving really, really quick between the mirrors using something that's like a shunshin. So in the same way that he like dashed at Sasuke at the beginning of the fight, he is now dashing between the mirrors, but he's not literally teleporting. He's just sort of like, you know, like a light speed dash in a Sonic game. Like he's just like going really, really fast physically between the mirrors. Yeah, I think so. Real Man Yagami says, I can kind of imagine how that type of feminine masculinity works. Difficult to describe it properly in words, though. Yeah, right? It's weird because it's so counterintuitive, at least for me growing up. It was like, you are either masculine or feminine, and you can be a man who is feminine, or you can be a woman who is masculine, but you're still like in one of two categories, and then you're either like where you're quote unquote supposed to be or not where you're supposed to be. You're like leaning one way or another, as opposed to like there being different kinds of masculinity, right? Or different kinds of femininity. And I think like nowadays, like people are more open to like less rigid definitions about that. People are exploring themselves more and getting to understand that those like rigid binaries just don't really work a lot of the times. But it is really interesting to go back and see how people define those things culturally. This is another one of those things that like I read this in a book. I don't know if it's true, but I remember taking a sociology course a long time ago, and what I remember from the book is that they were talking about like markers of attractiveness, and apparently there is, you know, like, so currently in North America, not everybody, but a majority of people find people who are physically fit, like working out sort of fit, to be more attractive than people who are overweight, as a general rule. And we were talking about like whether or not there's anything inherently attractive or unattractive about that, and like where that kind of comes from. And one example that came up was there is a tribe of folks who wear, I think in South America, who wear feathers in their nose, and the size of the feathers that is worn. There's like a nose piercing that kind of goes through the middle of your nose, and then you put like feathers as an adornment. The size of the feathers will actually like make make other people like hot and bothered. Like if you find the most colorful feathers and you get the biggest and the best feathers, it's not even just like an, oh, that guy has a great taste in feathers, I gotta go hang out with that dude because he seems cool. It's like it'll get you hot and bothered, it like physiologically, because they as a culture, as a society, have associated that with a particular thing that means something to them. So we in our culture and our society, we have visual archetypes that we associate with meaning and attractiveness, and they happen to be X, Y, or Z outfit or body type or voice tone or whatever. And for them, it's feathers. And it's just like, when I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, so a lot of this is actually much more subjective and more fluid and malleable than we might have thought. It doesn't mean that, like, if you're attracted to somebody for X, Y, or Z thing, then it's just a social construct, and so it doesn't mean anything. It's not real. No, attraction is real, right? But it's interesting how it kind of gets built up in our heads and how it changes with, like, from culture to culture. So, Kakashi says, I never imagined that anyone could master such a technique at a young age. Okay, Keke Genkai, this is where we get the first... these characters over here, we get the first mention of that particular term. Genetic trait. Okay, precisely the same order of skill as my Sharingan Mirror Eye, but even my Sharingan can't copy, mimic, or break. Okay, interesting. So, Kakashi says, even my Sharingan can't copy, mimic, or break this boy's Keke Genkai. So, I wonder how that's going to compare to what we see in a moment. I'm going to skip over this for now. And then I feel bad kind of skipping over this, but I want to get to the Sharingan stuff. Okay, so here he says, I can't help but... Okay, here we go. I can't help but prefer that the pair of you not force me to kill you. However, if you two are going to come at me, I shall kill my own heart with my blade, just as the word shinobi was originally the words heart and blade, and act as a full-fledged shinobi would. This bridges the nexus over this. Oh, I'll have to find the video later. Hang on, let me see if I can find this. I saw a really interesting video recently about, like, Naruto bridges. Let me see. Naruto bridge archaeology. I don't know. I think maybe one of you... Oh, the bridge... Yeah. Maybe somebody in chat... Hold on, it's going to get loud, probably. Jump scare warning, 3, 2, 1. If my YouTube gets resurrected. Okay. Yeah. I think someone in my server maybe sent this. So thank you to who sent this to me. But I will post... Oh, I will show this off and then I'll post it later. This video here. Engineer reviews bridges of Naruto. I found this really interesting. He kind of goes through and describes how the bridges are not only constructed and what type of bridge they are and how the bridges work, but also how they kind of thematically like fit in with the overall narrative and the junctures that the characters are in at this given time and all that stuff. So I think that it's very interesting. I'd highly recommend checking it out if you're interested in either architecture or just like the... if that's even the right term for it, the engineering of bridges, but also just like how bridges are used as symbols across the entire series. Really, really smart stuff. Thank you again to whoever recommended that. It's really great. Saria says, nothing is real, only I am real. No, not just you, the One Piece is real. Absolutely. That's the only thing. I know that apparently Crocodile beats your favorite character, and the One Piece is real. And Straw Hat, something. So sorry, Abonenten, those are the only things I know right now, but I am going to research a little bit more. I'm going to get into it. Realman Yagami says, what's the current main topic or premise, by the way? Like, what's the context in which you're breaking down these chapters currently? So, great question. Great question. The original context for this stream was going to be talking about the Sharingan, and it still is. Basically, I saw a debate with some folks. The channel is Lilo's Adventure. I'd hardly recommend you check them out. Actually, just pull them up right now. And they were talking about Naruto, and I heard quite a few what I would consider to be misconceptions about Naruto topics that I keep hearing over and over again, and I wanted to see if I could help clear them up. So I wrote down a few of them, and let's see. I'm getting this ready in my other monitor. 1 second. And one of them was whether or not the Sharingan can, yeah, this one over here. Whether or not the Sharingan can see the future. So this video over here, Lilos Adventure, Luffy versus Naruto debate. Obviously, I didn't really know anything about the One Piece side of things. But over the course of this video, they talk about a whole bunch of different topics, a whole bunch of different strength scaling for Naruto characters, and the topic of how the Sharingan works comes up among some other things. And so I was like, oh, this is great. I'm thinking of a longer term video on like light speed in Naruto and some other things. And while I'm working on that, I want to talk about general like fun misconceptions and things like that. So really just trying to delve into the Sharingan, like how it works, how it was awakened, how it develops, and whether it can actually see the future. That was the core misconception. To kind of give a summary of my opinion on it, I think some people think that it can literally see into the future, and that like if Kakashi turns it on, he can literally see like you know what's going to happen 5 seconds in the future or something like that, right? Like if he were to about to get hit by a car 5 seconds from now and he was just walking around, he turns it on and he'd be like, oh shit, that's gonna happen, I better not like step into the street at all because I'm gonna get hit. As opposed to what it really does is it lets you read the body language and fine motor movements of your opponent, and as long as you can kind of, as you're familiar with their kind of body language, then you can predict what they're going to do, and that gives you a head start on what they're doing. So, like Naruto versus Sasuke, for example, he's able to kind of, when they're fighting at the Final Valley for the first time, he activates the 3 Tomoe Sharingan for the first time, and he's able to see what Naruto's going to do and get himself into position to anticipate his attacks. This does not mean he can, like, see into the future. Let's jump ahead and take a look at that now since it's come up. I forget exactly what chapter it's in. I guess it's a little bit further. It's probably like 235, something like that, somewhere around here. So, oh, hey, cool. Okay, so it's a little bit before. This is kind of a long fight, so let me see. It's before here, obviously. He has the Sharingan here, so it's before here, obviously. Okay, before here, obviously. So we'll get to it in a second. Come on, buddy. Let's see. Oh, and I came back here after all. So, yep, this is where he destroys his heart, or his lung, rather. Let's just see. This fight is actually crazy long. Yeah, so maybe I should, like, look up the pages for this, off screen. I'm not spending so much time doing this. But anyway, we'll get to this as soon as it loads, and hopefully go over the that feat that I'm talking about. But yeah, so while it's loading, I try to kind of explain what I was thinking about it, which is that, you know, when Naruto first starts fighting Sasuke, when Sasuke has the 3 Tomoe Sharingan, Sasuke is able to maneuver himself into position and anticipate Naruto's attacks. It's not like he's looking into the future and seeing, oh shit, like in just a second Naruto's going to be over here because I can see it with my future sight, and therefore like anticipating it that way. It's more like he can read his moves, and then like he quote unquote sees like a ghost image of Naruto's movements, but that's like his mind kind of drawing quote unquote a prediction of where he's going to go. And it's a prediction, and that's the key point that I wanted to try to clear up. Same thing with his fight against Naruto after Naruto gets the Kyuubi cloak, right? If Sasuke could literally see into the future, then when that Kyuubi cloak starts to branch off and the chakra starts to reach out and swipe at him, he would be able to see like, oh, okay, cool. That I am now able to predict what's going to happen in the future, so I know that it's going to be there. But he specifically can't predict that that's going to happen because he doesn't he's not able to sorry, I keep getting distracted by the multitasking. He isn't able to anticipate it because there's nothing for him to read there, because the chakra doesn't have body language. It's just branching off on its own, right? Hopefully that makes some sense. It's so hard to talk about like simple concepts sometimes. I don't know why. Let's see. Saria says, even my Sharingan can't copy this boy's Kagegenkai, so it's only specifically Haku's and every other. Oh my god. Sorry, you're becoming such a great Naruto debater. Every stream, you get better and better at understanding the tactics and the lore. I'm so proud of you. I think Noodles has a short video with a databook scan, which is supposed to state that the Mangekyo Sharingan literally sees into the future. I don't remember what the statement said exactly. Yeah, so no offense if you're a Noodles fan or anything like that, but I've done a bit of responding to Noodles videos and to his debates and stuff like that on this channel, and I'm not really a fan of the way that he approaches stuff like that. I will say that the statement I think you're referring to is in the third data book, and I think it says something about like Itachi's Mangekyo can let him see everything in heaven and earth or something like that, right? Like the divine eye that can see everything in heaven and earth. And my reading of that, well, first of all, is that the databook statements are consistently hyperbolic and consistently like vague and kind of demonstrated or like depicted with colorful, flowery language. So I would not take that literally. I know for power scaling purposes it could be convenient to do so, but no, I don't think that the correct reading of that is that he's literally able to do that. And then furthermore, if I remember correctly, Noodles then takes it in a direction where he's like, and therefore the Mangekyo can let you see across the entire universe because heaven and earth or whatever means literally everything. And so Sasuke's ability, like when Sasuke gets the Mangekyo, then he can see everything in the entire universe everywhere. And since like Kaguya's dimensions are he can't perceive Naruto from Kaguya's dimensions, then they're further than a universe away. Since he has trouble perceiving the clones of what's his name, Madara's like Limbo clones, then the Limbo clones are in a completely different universe, and so it just kind of goes from there. As for Naruto versus Luffy, most scaling that people use above mountain level is in One Piece is based on cherry-picked panels with the largest sizes possible, even if they're contradicted consistently. Yeah, that's, I mean, like that, I think you'll find if you keep hanging out with us, is that my primary, like, gripe is not with any particular perspective, right? Like, we are allowed to disagree about things, we're allowed to have different perspectives, and I actually think that there is plenty of room for what you would call headcanon, I guess. Obviously, maybe like not in the context of a debate, but in the context of just interpreting the art that we are interpreting and discussing it. We should come to our own interpretations. We should have disagreements because that causes us to have interesting discussions and all that, right? And yeah, so I'm definitely don't think that there should be a monopoly on perspective, but I do find it unfortunate that people sometimes like force a particular agenda when it comes to like using databook statements or using specific events or whatnot. And there seems to be this desire to just like, especially in debates obviously, but like elsewhere too, to just find individual statements, individual data points or whatnot, that you can take out of context and then be like, hey, look, this thing is verbatim stated to be true, therefore I'm right, therefore there's no other possible interpretation, now you prove me wrong. And then that can sometimes be coupled with an aversion towards skepticism, which can be difficult to stomach at times too, because again, it just like kind of shuts down the conversation, it doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes there are things that are very clear cut. Sometimes there are statements that are basically, I don't want to say it's undebatable, but like basically they're so obvious and self-evident that you really have to go out of your way to demonstrate why they don't make sense. But that, for every statement like that, there's also a statement that's meant to be taken hyperbolically. Is that even a word? In a way that is, it's meant to be taken metaphorically. and just is instead taken out of context, or even just like, a character says something but it gets cut off and it gets excised like you're talking about. Like Naruto says, my favorite food is pizza, dot, 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 is what I would say if I was an idiot, because obviously ramen is the best food in the world. And people will just cut that out of context and say, look, Naruto verbatim stated that his favorite food is pizza. It's written here, verbatim, by the author Kishimoto. So unless you're going to argue with Kishimoto, I think we can all agree that Naruto's favorite food is pizza. Let's move on, right? Like, I don't think that's. Can I see the panel? Can I see that chapter? Can we go over it together? You being skeptic? Are you being skeptic? Oh, this guy over here is being skeptical. Everybody, he's just wasting everybody's time, right? Like, I'm sure you've seen that shit happen. I definitely see it happen all the time, and that's really the only shit that like gets under my skin, and only really because it's just a missed opportunity. There's more we can talk about. There's more fun that we can have if we just share information with each other, as opposed to trying to restrict it. Yeah, that's what I'm up to, if that makes sense. Real Man Yagami says, I like to listen to Noodles debating, but I'm not really a fan or anything. Yeah, well, I mean, under the videos section of my channel, the main video that, like the biggest thing that I've made was analyzing the debate on Itachi versus Pain between Noodles and Swag Kage. And so obviously, like, I like listening to his debates. His debate with Weeaboo Warrior on Kakuzu versus Pain is I think it is my favorite, like, anime related debate, for reasons I can get into if you like. I would highly encourage you to go check that out if you haven't yet. I think it's on Noodle's live section of his channel, so it might not show up if you just go look under videos. But yeah, that one is great. I got a lot of enjoyment out of that, and I wish there were more of that. The recent one where he was like, recently he's been, I don't know, going to like Six and bothering him, or like talking to Six's mods or whatever, and just being like pushing this weird anti-skeptic agenda that I just find kind of really annoying. So I haven't been inclined to listen to that stuff very much. It's very annoying. Yeah. Oh, you actually watched the Itachi vs. Pain video. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for checking that out, man. I really appreciate that. I worked very hard on that, and, I'm really glad that folks have checked it out. Feel free to let me know what you think. I'm sure there are parts that I could have done better. I'm sure hopefully there are things that resonated with you. Yeah, always more than happy to hear feedback and talk about it. Oh, you've seen their debate as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know what you think. I think Weeaboo did a really good job of, I saw your message, Mackenzie. I won't read it. It showed up on my other chat thing. I won't read it if you want it retracted, but I'm not bothered by it at all. Ryoman says, I've seen the debate as well. Oh yeah. So yeah, I'd be curious to know what you think. I obviously think that Weeaboo won that debate. I think he also won his recent debate on should I keep forgetting? But he had another recent debate on his channel. I think he's just a skilled debater. I think he did a good job. I point to that example as a great teaching tool as well, because I think, Noodles really just focused on rhetoric, and most of what he did was kind of like keep coming back to the Yugito Pa thing and the perfect Jinchuriki thing, and like the statement about Akatsuki being able to take down all Biju and whatever from the data books. And so he was really just kind of relying on, I think, tactics and rhetoric, whereas Weeaboo came with the knowledge and with the, with the arguments and the scans and all that. Maybe he could have pushed a little bit harder on some of the rhetoric. Noodles should have done more based stuff, in my opinion, and Weeaboo maybe should have, I think, pushed a little harder on certain arguments. But overall, I think, Weeaboo presented a very strong case, and I think like more than earned the victory, personally. But yeah, Mackenzie, hello. Thank you so much for stopping by and for checking out the stream. I hope that you are doing well and having a good night. Appreciate you stopping by. Ryoman says, good video, I think Pain wins. Yeah, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. I think so too. I actually really like the concept of the debate. I even really like the the underdog matchup of Itachi versus Kakuzu. Or well, that would be fine too, but Pain versus Kakasu. I like hearing weird, edgy arguments. You know, I actually um, really enjoyed the Choji versus Gamabunta debate as well. Um, at least the topic of it, the concept of it. I didn't like the fallout and everything that happened with like Jay the Great and all that, but like the uh the actual debate, like if somebody was like, "Hey, I want you to debate me on Choji versus Gamabunta, and I'm not gonna tell you which one, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it live." I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, let's!" Like, it'd be awesome. It's such a weird conversation, but then again, it's like when I actually listened to the arguments, it was the data book. So I think Noodles was arguing that the reason he thought that Choji would beat up Gamabunta had something to do with this, like that Choji can expand at the speed of lightning. He can expand to the size of a mountain. And then he pulled out, like, here is the average size of a mountain in the real world. And to get that big in at the speed of lightning would displace country level amount of force. And therefore, Choji, as a kid, was country level. And Gamabunta has, quote unquote, no feats other than air bullets, which are insignificant, like featless or whatever, right? I think that was the core of the argument. And it's like, you know, the mountains supposedly that Choji scales to are like right behind him, right? Like, did you think to measure the mountains? Did you actually care how big those mountains are? Where is this lightning thing coming from? Well, the lightning thing was actually coming from the partial expansion jutsu, and the partial expansion jutsu entry said that Choji can expand his individual like body parts at the speed of lightning. So he was conflating that with the full expansion jutsu, and also not taking into account the fact that like so much shit in the data books is hyperbolic. So not evaluating whether or not we should even accept to begin with that Choji's partial expansion is the speed of lightning, right? So it's like that. Like, I love the concept. I love the underdog arguments. I love the scrappiness of it all. It's fucking hilarious. But then when you actually listen to the arguments, it's like you can't. There's a reason why people don't have these arguments, because it's really hard to clear these points in an honest way. And that was sort of slightly disappointing, but clearly compelling enough that I'm still talking about it years later. So so there you go. Thank you for the feedback. Saria says Pain is simply built weird. That's true. Like, it's tough to go up against Pain unless you're just at a certain, especially Nagato. And I know it's like makes it sort of unfun for the purpose of power scaling and debating, but Nagato's one of those characters where he's just given so much, like such a expansive kit, and is so effective at using that kit that like you really have to kind of pull out all the stops to be able to defeat him. I don't think Madara would have much trouble, but I think anybody below Madara and Obito's level, and I mean like War Arc Madara and Obito's level, would be struggling, especially if it's Nagato himself. Off the top of my head, I think Nagato and Obito are probably evenly matched at that point in the series, maybe, but Madara would be above Obito, fucking above Pain, probably Obito too, but yeah. Anyway, it depends. It's debatable. I think Noodles used that because he thought Batman wouldn't be able to, able to counter it properly. Yeah, V1, Batman V1. Yep, you're right. I mean, I can't like be inside his head, so to speak. Like, I don't want to pretend that I know what his motivation was, but that seemed to be the case, right? Like, I guess there are two options, right? One is that he literally believed what he was saying was true, or two, he was trying to use whatever arguments he thought would win, regardless of what he thought was true. And I guess it's kind of up to you whether you find either of those things appealing. And personally, I personally don't like that. It personally irritates me. I feel like arguments should be had in good faith, and if you're going to put an argument forward, you really should try to do so. You can make a cheeky argument or something that's like kind of not, 100% behind or whatever, but I mean, I guess it's unfortunate because people like myself included in the past won't necessarily have the context of what folks are talking about in the debate, and they might just tune in and actually like walk away being like, oh, so that's what mountain level means, and then have that misconception that sticks with them for a while. That this happened to me, right? That's part of my motivation in starting to make content about this stuff is because I ingested a lot of misconceptions, and then I went through this process of like being like, oh shit, I was like, none of this is right. What the fuck? But yeah, I guess that is one way to win a debate, right? If you just deny your opponent victory, then you win by default, I guess. So if you give your opponent an impossible problem, but to me, it's kind of like you show up to a debate and you give your opponent like a Rubik's cube. That's like a super difficult Rubik's cube type puzzle, and you're like, here, solve this, and you'll win the debate. But then like an hour goes by and they're still working on it, and then you're like, I won the debate because he couldn't like debunk my points. It's like, wait, he's spending all this time like dealing with this fucking problem that you gave him, and now you're just leaving. Okay. I mean, I know it's not a great metaphor, but you know what I mean, right? It's like, yeah, you won something, but you didn't like actually portray the thing correctly. That kind of sucks. Anyway, but like it does give us a lot to talk about, including the Sharingan. And so now we come back around full circle. And so here in chapter 230 is Naruto's clash with Sasuke, and this is the first time that he's using his 3 Tomoe Sharingan. I don't even think he knows that he's developed it yet. It's just something that's happened as a result of his exchange with Naruto before. So he's looking at Naruto, and he sees Naruto coming in and manages to dodge one of his attacks, which Naruto seems surprised by. And then this is what Sasuke says. Before, I couldn't keep up with him, but now, is it the curse mark? Is my body adapting to the effects? I can tell what he's going to do next just by looking at him with my mind's eye. So yeah, again, he's not sure if it's like his Sharingan has developed to that point, but he can tell what he's going to do next. He can predict what's going to happen, right? And he sees like this little shadow over here of how that's working. He sees the shadow, he dodges while Naruto is still coming in, and then he dodges again. And then he does this, which causes Naruto to overlap. Now, granted, he still does get cut a little bit by, I think, like Naruto's claw or whatnot, right? So he's able to conserve his chakra, right? He calls it chakra sight like this. All I need to do is read his next move and set up my strike before it happens. So I definitely understand why somebody could come to the conclusion that based on this, Sasuke is seeing into the future, right? I mean, the phrasing is see his next move, but technically that's not a contradiction with the idea that he's seeing into the future. Like, he's seeing into the future to see his next move, right? That those two things don't clash. But that's one interpretation. The other interpretation is that he's reading his body language and figuring out where he's going to wind up, and then anticipating that with this head start. So let's see if we can find any more evidence in this strip, so to speak, for where that happens. So Naruto punches him, or Sasuke punches him back, and continues doing this for a while. And then he gets the chakra branching. So notice that Sasuke doesn't seem to see into the future the fact that Naruto is going to get a Kyuubi cloak. He seems to be reacting to that in real time as it's happening. I guess you could argue that it's unclear. I don't think it's particularly unclear. But, you know. So, here we go. This is the thing I was talking about before. So, Sasuke is focusing on Naruto, and he actually sees this cloak that Naruto has kind of surrounding him, right? And he's able to track it. He's able to see that Naruto is where he's going to be in the future. Right? And usually this like shadowy part kind of indicates where he's going to be next. So he's looking, and look, he predicts that Naruto is going to be here, and then Naruto is here. But then this happens. He branches off, and he's surprised by it, and then he gets hit. And then he gets pushed back. What was that? I could read Naruto's moves, but his chakra acted alone. Okay, it's as if his chakra has a mind of his own. Even with the eyes, I can't see what it'll do. So I think this set of panels here in chapter 231 is really what cinches it. And obviously there's a lot more else in the series that we could talk about, but this for me kind of demonstrates like the core principle of how the Sharingan works, at least in terms of combat, right? So Sasuke says he can read Naruto's moves. He's able to read them, he's able to perceive them, but he couldn't read what the chakra was doing. Now, if he could predict the future, if he could literally see into the future, like time hacking or whatever, then he would have seen the branch coming in advance. He would have known that this was going to happen, and he would have had the opportunity to move away from it. At the very least, he should have seen this outline, right? Like, he should have seen the ghostly outline, the shadow outline of the chakra arm over here before it got there. He should have seen some kind of indication that eventually this was going to happen to him in his future. But it didn't, right? It's only Naruto. And if you go through here, this is harder to see as well. But if you notice, like, So what I wanted to say is that we should try to look for examples. If he's seeing into the future, then it shouldn't just be Naruto, right? If he's seeing into the future, he should see the state of the future overall, as opposed to just the state of Naruto's body. So you would expect, like, a panel where we see Naruto, like, jumping off the water here, and then if he, imagine he were to land on the water over here, like, that's where he's going to land, then we would also see, like, a shadow of what the water would look like when Naruto was pushing off of it. Now, obviously, that doesn't really apply to this panel because Naruto's in the air. But you know what I mean? Like, there should be other signifiers that, like, Sasuke is seeing the entire world in the future. Like, he's looking into the future version of the world that he's inhabiting. And if that were the case, we would see more, like, environmental signifiers of that, as opposed to just Naruto. But he's very clear that it's just Naruto's body language that he's reading. And of course, probably won't pull up all these chapters, but another... Well, actually, yeah, let's take a look at this. So, he says, as long as I keep my distance, he can't touch me. So now Naruto's at a distance. So Naruto throws his arm forward, says, what now? And despite the fact that he should be able to see into the future, at this point, he should be able to see, holy shit, there's this big fucking thing that's going to come at me. And keep in mind also that, like, future sight shouldn't be limited, I don't think, the same way that, like, by reflexes, right? Because if you can see 5 seconds into the future, it doesn't really matter how fast this happens. You can still see that something really fucking fast is going to happen in 5 seconds, and you've got those 5 seconds to get out of the way. So even if this would blitz him under normal circumstances, Sasuke sees the blitz coming, then that completely changes this. But he doesn't see the outline. He doesn't see any way to interpret it in advance, and he does get blitzed by it. And all he says is, the most I can do is dodge, but he didn't even successfully do that. Like, he dodged the Naruto coming down, but not, like, coming forward at him. Now, this kind of gets a little bit more ambiguous, because it seems like he's predicting the movement of the chakra arm here, and I think it's just because it's in shadow, and this is, like, one of those things that can kind of trip you up. But even if he does, he's only, like, he's looking at it while it's stationary. He doesn't seem to predict Naruto doing this. Seems kind of surprised by it, right? So once Naruto actually starts to use the ability to its utmost, then he loses his ability to do that predictive stuff when the chakra's moving independently. So he needs to, so the only thing he can do is, like, react to him in real time, right? At that point, he just needs to amp up his ability. It's not going to be enough to just predict things. But of course, like, using the Sharingan at all is always going to be a buff. But at this point, we don't actually see much happen. It's just this kind of final clash between the two of them, which is fucking awesome. But yeah, that's it. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll jump back to the Haku thing for a couple minutes before wrapping up the stream. But let me check messages real quick. Probably a hot take, says Sari Zapona. I think Nagato could probably kill revived Madara because of his knack for just letting himself get hit and arrogance. Like, it'd be tough, but I absolutely think he could do it. Yeah, I mean, if Madara starts off, like, fucking around and Nagato just goes in for the kill, then I think he's got a chance for sure. Madara doesn't actually, we were talking about this last time, right? Madara himself doesn't actually have a massive repertoire of different jutsu. He tends to focus on like individual jutsu that are highly strong and compelling, like the perfect Susanoo. The problem with the perfect Susanoo is that if it's made of Madara's chakra, then it can be drained with the Predapath. And so if Nagato can manage to navigate himself to a position where he's able to maintain contact with the Susanoo without getting killed, then he can potentially drain that. And I guess the question then becomes, like, what does Madara do after that? Of course, you have to actually demonstrate that Nagato can do that in the first place, and that's tricky. But if Madara isn't even throwing up the full perfect Susanoo at first, then yeah, I mean, Bansho Tanin into a like Ningendo into Shinra Tensei if things get hairy, and then like dashing back in again. Like, there are definitely ways that you could combo it. I mean, what other jutsu does Madara have? Well, I guess the debate kind of will wind up coming down to like Sharingan Genjutsu as well, like whether or not you think Nagato can deal with them. I personally do think he can, but I know there's some debate about that. And then, like, what else can Madara do? Like, he's got Fireball Jutsu. That's not going to do anything against the Predapath. So, and then just his overall, like, Taijutsu and weapon mastery could be effective. I actually wonder if against a big-ass target like the perfect Susanoo, it might make, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out in my head if it might make more sense for the paths to split up to try and, like, attack him from multiple sides or whatever. But I don't know. That would mean that they individually would be much more vulnerable. So I'm not sure. Interesting debate though. Be curious. Yeah, like a Prime Nagato versus Prime Madara, non-Edo Tensei. I would be very curious to see how that argument goes. Let's see. If Madara is toying, then he very likely... Yeah, exactly. Saria says, he's used into the future, but the world transcends time, not Naruto. So what you're saying is the world is boundless. And the Naruto world scales to boundless, is that what you're saying? Part 1 Sasuke versus sick Kimimaro, who wins? Kimimaro, I think. I'd have to really delve into it, but Kimimaro went up against... It depends on like what phase of part 1 you're talking about and how serious Kimimaro was taking things. Assuming that, like, he didn't have any investment in Sasuke, it was like bloodlusted against him, right? I think, he's able to take care of Naruto and then take care of Drunken Lee and then take care of Gaara, and only loses at the very end on his last limb, and almost killed Gaara after all that. So if he's just going up against Sasuke on neutral territory and he's allowed to be bloodlusted, I think I'm finding it very difficult to think of what Sasuke is going to do to hurt him. Maybe like Chidori could do it if he lands it exactly right, but if he's getting in that close against Kimimaro with all, like, his full arsenal, everything he can do, I think he's putting himself at extreme risk. So he would have to, like, engineer a situation where he could do that in a tactically, like, smart way, which I think would be very difficult. I can see Sasuke managing to survive a while, similarly to this Naruto engagement where he's, dodging and parrying and feinting and stuff like that. Feint with an E. But I don't know. I think that Chidori is his only shot, right? Like, he's not getting through Kimimaro's bone defenses with fucking Shuriken and Kunai or fucking Fireball Jutsu. So I will say the one way that Sasuke could do it is if he has his if he manages to, like, outlast Kimimaro. Like, if he masters the curse seal and he's just able to kind of, like, stay out of range until Kimimaro slows down and then come in with one of those, like, fucking full-powered curse mark, like one of these, then maybe, yeah. Like, I don't really have a problem with the idea that this could hurt Kimimaro. And if he can just use his flight and maneuverability to stay the fuck out of the way, and dodge his attacks, Kimimaro has a timer, right? So that's how it'd be kind of like fighting the end in in Metal Gear 3. Like you basically just have to mind your positioning and make sure not to do anything stupid and expose yourself and just wait for the opponent to die. So there is a win condition, but if they clash straight up, then yeah, I think Kimimaro's taking it. Unless Sasuke gets very creative. Oh yeah, you agree with that? Cool. Yep. Sorry, says Chidori says only shot Naruto to ever Rasengan. This is actually something Naruto says in storm form when he uses certain Rasengans, and I find it so funny. Have you seen that video that's like, fuck you mean Rasengans don't work on him? It's so good. It is kind of his answer. It's like, it's kind of funny that Naruto only uses a few different jutsu over the course of the series, you know. So, my voice is getting a little tired, so I want to just wrap this up by looking at the feat where Sasuke learns to be able to see the stuff in the mirror, right? Like he's able to respond to Haku, because that's going to segue nicely into the discussion next week. However, let's take a look at Zabuza's statement over here. I now have a thorough understanding of the arcane workings of your mirror eye. There was far more to our previous battle than the apparently humiliating defeat I permitted you to hand to me. Haku, who was hiding nearby, observed and studied every aspect of our fight from beginning to end. Haku is extremely intelligent. For him to see a technique is to analyze and understand it, and with that understanding he can develop effective countermeasures. Okay. So I guess the hiding in mist technique is enough to obscure the Sharingan's vision. We're both wounded, but probably because there's like chakra embedded in the jutsu, so to speak, might like obscure the chakra vision or like muddy it up or something. Okay. So funny enough, Sasuke does say here that Haku's attacks have been getting weaker, so there must be a limit on his chakra. So it's possible that at this point going forward that Haku is not moving at full speed. Ryomen says, I'm going to go now to read a bit of Fire. Oh, Fire Punch is awesome. Yeah. Please enjoy. I've only read the first chapter, but man, or the first volume or whatnot, but yeah, that was super intense. I need to get back into it. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for stopping by and for the engagement and discussion. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great night. Saria says, Naruto is the embodiment of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, exactly. He does innovate on some stuff later on, but I mean, he does kind of stick to his roots as well. So let's see. The fog is too thick for the hiding in mist technique. Even Zabuza won't be able to see anything through it, but he is able to respond to it. His eyes are closed. You've overestimated the value of your Sharingan. You pretend it enables you to penetrate all. Yet, you can see the. Can you see the future? I foresee your death. All yet, you've turned out to be a false prophet after all, Kakashi. Okay. You can neither read my mind nor the future. In other words, your precious Sharingan is just an elaborate hoax, a confidence trick you play in order to psych out your opponents. More precisely, it combines clarity of perception and insight on your own part with the ability to all but hypnotize those around you. Using those skills in concert, you are able to create your illusions through a combination of mimicry, from movement to thoughts to the skills of those you fight. Prancing around, acting like you can see the future. Okay, well, I guess this is the nail in the coffin, so to speak. I mean, not saying that people can't have more interpretations or look at this differently, but this seems very clear. You know, we were talking last time about how Kakashi's use of the term like spells and caster and stuff like that, and all the illusions before were making me think that, okay, well, maybe he can actually see the future, or at least if you're going to argue that point, here's the core of your argument, right? But now it's made very clear to us that this is not actually what's happening. Like Kakashi is just using a variety, yeah, he's using beast mimicry, using a variety of imitation techniques. Oh, you're at chapter 45 so far, 7 out of 10. Yeah, that seems fair from what I've seen. Looking forward to getting into it. I'm obviously like quite behind you, but just the initial world that they set up was so harrowing and chilling. ironically, that I found it really compelling. Um, so Zabuza says, you analyze my superficial movements, copy them, and use the rapidity of the turnaround to induce fear and insecurity. You calculate when my insecurities have reached a fever pitch, then you lay your trap. You use visual hypnosis to trick me into signaling what technique I'll use and how I'll be using it, and then all you have to do is mimic it. Very fucking cool. So he's basically using a very advanced and subtle form of genjutsu manipulation to trick Zabuza into using the technique that Kakashi wants him to use, and then mind freaking him into thinking that it was his choice all along. So that actually, to me, that's like way fucking cooler than seeing into the future. Because what Kakashi is doing is he's engaging in such an elaborate game of like fear-based mind chess against his opponent that it's much cooler, I think. First, I conceal myself with this thick mist and neutralize your visual acuity. So he does have to actually rely on his visual acuity. With my own eyes closed, I eliminate the possibility of your hypnotizing me. So he's countering the visual aspect of the genjutsu. But then while I can't use my own eyes, neither can you. I'm trained in silent killing. My genius lies in the ability to hunt by sound alone. And yeah, exactly. Goes in for Sakura. So, I mean, like, I do want to keep going until we see the Sasuke event, but... So, if this keeps up, we'll all be in serious trouble. My eyes are beginning to adjust to the environment. I have been targeting the points that would result in mortal injury. Okay, well, here's the other thing, too, right? Like, notice that at this point in the fight, Sasuke has started to get these pinpricks in his body, and so does Naruto. Before this point in the fight, up to this point in the fight, there was this the way that Haku was attacking was always just to slash past Sasuke, right? Up to this point in the fight, he was always just kind of like grazing him and never actually throwing his Senbon and embedding them in Sasuke. So now he is, and now we have this statement from Haku over here. I've been targeting the points that would result in mortal injuries, but he's evaded every attempt. So now he actually is like going for the kill. But he also seems to have lost some of his power. And while he's dividing his own focus between fighting me and watching out for his friend, he's gradually gaining speed, beginning to catch up to my own moves. Okay, so he's starting to get faster, gradually gaining speed, which is impressive, particularly because Sasuke was just like out for the count a minute ago. I love this, like the inverted perspective, the gazing down on them from above, the Sasuke becoming Sonic the Hedgehog. All my fantasies are coming true. Saria says Naruto just looks mildly annoyed. Yeah, he looks like he was taking a grumpy nap, honestly. Haku says he's narrowly avoiding every strike. Make one of his vulnerable spots. Make one of his... Oh, I think this was meant to say he's narrowly avoiding every strike I make on one of his vulnerable spots. His moves are brilliant. My next assault will take you down. He shows amazing stamina, reflexes, training, skill, and judgment. Through his every faculty must... I think this is... The translation is wonky. I'm going to go back to the black and white one. There's too many like typos or whatever. But yeah, I'll just go through this part and then... Yeah, he's narrowly avoiding every strike I make at one of his vulnerable spots. His moves are brilliant. Though his every faculty must be extended past its limit now. Stay frosty, focus, concentrate, and look through the illusion. I think that's a very important thing too, right? So he manages to... Okay. See where he's coming and move out of the way. So he says he wasn't fooled or even confused. And he manages to get Naruto out of the way. So what I think is happening here, and I wish that the fucking pages would actually load, not to be a spoiled brat about it. But fuck. There's a lot going on in these couple of chapters, but something I think is worth looking at when acknowledging what's happening between Sasuke and Haku and all of them is that specifically we get a series of chapters where Kakashi explains, where Kakashi is like, I can literally see the future and I can see your death in the future, and still, and we're basically being taught, hey, the Sharingan lets you see into the future. And then we get another chapter where Zabuza explains, actually, you were just like fronting, essentially, and you weren't really seeing into the future, and now I understand what this is all about. And it was illusion and trickery and deception and suggestion and manipulation. None of it was actually like truly magical. It was hypnosis. Okay? So it takes the magical and the ethereal and it grounds it back down into reality, and it kind of explains a bit more mechanically how it works. Then we have this moment with Sasuke. And Sasuke says, look through the illusion, and is able to then anticipate what's happening with Haku and get Naruto out of the way. Haku then says he wasn't fooled or even confused. And given that the technique is called demonic mirroring illusion something, I think what's happening here is that Haku isn't actually just moving at X speed. Sure, that's part of it. Sure, he's moving fast. Sure, he's telling the truth in part. But there's also some illusion, some suggestion, some manipulation going over here. Part of what's aiding Haku's movement and his manipulation of the ice mirrors is an illusion. It's suggestion. It's hypnosis. He's taking advantage of his trickery and foolery of his opponent's senses to be able to pull this off. And it's not that the Sharingan makes Sasuke faster, per se. It's not that he is even able to predict Haku's movements in full like he does with Naruto, because he doesn't have the 3 Tomoe yet. But he's now able to see through the illusion. He's able to see through the deception. He's able to see that something is going on behind the scenes, and it's not that he's like perceptually all that much faster necessarily, but just that he understands that there is something that's not literally true, and he's able to see that and change his fate based on that. The greater your ability to perceive my movements will become, especially since to a certain extent you can already see me now, it would be foolhardy to try to target you directly. So now he goes for Naruto because he figures that Sasuke can get out of the way himself, and Sasuke is able to see that Haku. So yeah, so here's the thing, right? You can say that Haku is not moving at the speed of light here, but if he moves at the speed of light ever before, then he can move at the speed of light when making attacks between his mirrors. And now he does specifically say, I'm going to bring this to an end. Like, he's going in for the kill, if this is to believed at all. And if that's the case, then, like, Sasuke can perceive this character who, at the very least, was just moving at the speed of light, and can see this happening, and can, when he's already fully accelerated and on the way there, can then accelerate himself over there and get there in time to block the attack. Which would mean that Sasuke is near the speed of light. Maybe even faster than the speed of light. Unless you just downscale Haku in this moment, and then you say, okay, well, he is some unquantifiably smaller amount of speed than the speed of light, and he was only ever the speed of light previously, in which case that's fine, but how does that lead to any kind of scaling off of this later? He's only ever moving the speed of light in instances where we can't then build scaling off of it, then it doesn't really help us scale. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today. Although Zabuza does say no one has ever penetrated the secret of Haku's techniques until now. No one. He's a ninja genius. Okay. So this is such a cool moment too. I think I'm just going to look at the... I want to just look at the moment where Naruto, like, intercepts Haku. Yeah, this is so fucking cool. And then we're going to call it a night. I just want to see that actual moment. Yeah, I miss the old rendition of Kurama. Okay, healing himself. Of course, now we're gonna get stuck. Sorry for kind of like zooming around. I'm just looking for the actual panel that I want to discuss. Okay, so now we got the Naruto starting to attack. Okay, and he manages to repel Haku's Senbon by just like shouting at them essentially. And Haku comes in. So yeah, again, like if you think that Haku is moving at the speed of light over here, Naruto reacts to it, like perceives it, reacts to it, and blocks that attack. If you think that was just a Senbon attack, so it wasn't, then you would have to say, like, is Haku moving at the speed of light here, or is he holding back? Because Naruto reacts to him and then spins away and does that. And then Haku is already on the ground and needs to move into the next mirror, and Naruto grabs him before he's able to get into the mirror. Okay, so if he's moving at the speed of light then Naruto is also relative. So, yeah. And then he manages to break the mirrors. Can't withstand his chakra, starts to do a jutsu. Doesn't manage to pull it off. Smack. And done. Through the mirror. Okay, so I think that's it for now. Basically, what I wanted to try to bring up in this stream in particular, and in preparation for the next stream talking about light speed next week, is specifically how does the Sharingan do its prediction. And there's a lot more we could talk about specifically on the Sharingan if folks are interested, but basically I wanted to just double check for my own edification and to share it with you guys whether or not the Sharingan can actually see the future, or whether it relies on prediction. And I think it's pretty clear that it relies on prediction. And specifically to see where this is going, in terms of a further argument about characters being light speed, Haku is somebody who people usually, even some people who are skeptical about light speed arguments, will be willing to say, okay, well, at least Haku's the speed of light, right? Like, at least we can agree that Haku's the speed of light. The problem with that is that when Haku's movement gets deciphered and broken through, it happens right after we just learn all this stuff about how we thought Kakashi could see the future, and he was like using spells and shit like that. And now we're told, no, it's actually all grounded, right? It's hypnosis, it's manipulation, it's illusion. Then Sasuke gets the Sharingan for the first time, and when he activates it, he says, see through the illusion. Then Haku says he wasn't fooled, he wasn't confused. And then, what's his name? Zabuza says that nobody else has ever been able to break through, like, the decipher the jutsu. And then the jutsu name itself is called demonic mirroring, illusion demonic mirroring ice crystals. So it's an illusion technique. So is it possible, I guess, that Haku is moving at the speed of light? Yeah, maybe. But it more makes sense that what happened in this fight is that he used a combination of hypnosis and coercion, and his Ice Keke Genkai to boost his speed. But the his positioning in the mirror was more of a, like, involved some sort of deception or something like that, like a low-key genjutsu, essentially. The same way that Kakashi's did. And the reason why Sasuke was able to react to it was not because he got a speed boost, not because he could see the future, but because he was started to see through the illusion. And this kind of then comes back up in the fight with Lee, where Lee blitzes him. So, well, not blitzes him, but, like, Lee manages to attack him, and Sasuke is not able to react to it in time. And he's trying to see, we should probably look at this as one last thing. He's trying to see, like, why Lee is so fast, and he's, like, convinced that it must be some kind of a trick. But of course it winds up just being his actual speed. He tries to incorporate the lesson that he just learned, but does not manage to do so because there's no illusion, right? So, chapter 37, they're fighting. Sasuke is like, he sees Lee do this, then he sees Lee do that, and he's like, okay, clearly, is this martial arts or magic and illusion? Okay? So now he says, this may be my chance to get in a little practice using it. That looks like the Sharingan Mirror Wheel Eye. Okay? And so he says this. whether it's a genjutsu illusion or a ninjutsu fighting technique, there's some kind of magic at work here. Okay, and of course, kadoom, and this happens. My copy eye couldn't see through his technique, but that means those moves he's using, exactly, they're neither martial arts nor illusion. Martial arts, I think, is a substitution for ninjutsu here. No ninjutsu, no trickery. My moves are strictly physical, hard as you may find it to accept. If your Sharingan eye can see to the heart of every ninja art well enough to duplicate it, as it is said to, then you know what I say is true. I'm sure your Sharingan is invaluable against arts like ninjutsu and genjutsu, with their formalized rules, silent casting, and chakras, but physical taijutsu arts in their pure form are a very different story. Even if you can perfectly perceive and understand my movements, you lack the speed and strength to counter them. You haven't had the physical training necessary to keep up with me. It doesn't matter what your eye can see if your body's too weak to act. So basically, something that this scene is used for is to explain that, like, even the predictive ability of the Sharingan doesn't prevent Sasuke himself from getting blitzed. He could absolutely still get outmaneuvered, outsped, by somebody else. But also that here Sasuke is just incredulous as to the idea that this character is only using his physical techniques and he's not using some sort of illusion. And he's specifically trying to pierce through the illusion, which makes me think, then going back to the Haku stuff, that Haku, again, isn't just using his physical speed. He's using some kind of illusion or something like that. But maybe you could just argue, oh, well, he's using his ninjutsu to increase his speed, and then, But I just want to argue that there's ambiguity here, and it's open to interpretation, as opposed to arguing a specific agenda. I think that's it. Let me catch up on chat, and then I'm going to head out in a little bit. Gotta get some dinner. Actually, you're full of shit. Your rage bait doesn't work on me anymore, says Safusa. Yeah, the demon of the mist can't be pissed off by your common rage baiting techniques. Kakashi just showed up on that bridge to shitpost. Let's see. Oh, I missed a couple. Shonen characters complimenting their opponents in their internal monologues just to try and murder them seconds later. They want to feel like they're defeating a worthy opponent, right? Because that makes the victory all the more sweet. Realman, oh yeah, you said damn chapter 46 was great. Oh, excuse me, awesome. I meant to say awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I want to check that out for sure. Let's see. I don't think if I had anything else in my backlog, but I don't think so. Well, I gotta check out One Piece, obviously. But then I'll give that a shot too. Or I mean, I'll get back into it rather. Sorry says, honestly, who isn't a ninja genius? It's like Dragon Ball, where everyone is a prodigy, and Gohan is a super prodigy, and Frieza is a super duper prodigy, yeah, and a super de-duper Saiyan. Yeah, I mean, like, I think, what's the term for this in science? It's not confirmation bias, but it's like, the reason why we're seeing all of these ninja prodigies is because they're ninja prodigies, and if they weren't ninja prodigies, we wouldn't see them. So, like, we have it looks like everybody is a ninja prodigy, but that's because the manga is specifically showing us ninja prodigies. There are actually a shitload of other ninja that we see during the war, and they're not all prodigies. So, but it feels like everybody is because of that, like, sample selection or something. I don't know what the term for it is. And Realman says, I definitely think Haku moves at light speed between the mirrors. That's fine. At the risk of self-promotion or whatnot, feel free to come back next week if you're interested. I've been meaning to do a stream on light speed arguments in Naruto for a long time, and I'm finally going to do it next week. And I'll mention some of this stuff as well, although there's more arguments to go over. It's not gonna be a full repeat or anything. But yeah, I got other light speed stuff I want to talk about too. But if you want to share your thoughts, I mean, I'm about to head out for the night. But if you want to share your thoughts on why you think he does, feel free to leave a comment, or feel free to stop by next week, and I'd be more than happy to hear any dissenting views. Like, I really enjoy the back and forth. So you say you're trying to join the stream, that's awesome. Yeah, no pressure. And by the way, the video on demands always go up on the video channel. I don't plan to ever take them down, so you can always feel free to watch an old stream and to leave a comment, and I'll try to respond as soon as I can. Oh, sorry, says congratulations on 101 subs. Oh shit, that's awesome. I told you you'd hit 100 today. Let me take a look and see how much. Yeah, holy shit, that's amazing. Wow, thank you so much to everybody who's subscribed and everybody who's been here for the journey. I'm genuinely like super grateful and super happy. Yeah, like I said a couple of years ago, I had no idea that there was like a Naruto stream, a Naruto community at all. And then I found it, and then I had like sort of a rocky start. Through all of that, just being able to like find folks to connect with and share thoughts with and have debates and conversations with has been genuinely amazing. Um, and I'm super happy. So thank you for the congratulations. Thank you to everybody who's checked out the stream and left a comment and shared your thoughts, and please continue to do so. Um, yeah, I think that's a wonderful place to end the stream for the evening. That's super cool. So next Thursday at 7 p.m., I'll be resuming our playthrough of Claire Obscure. Still loving that game. Still looking forward to seeing what it has to offer. And then next Sunday, 6 p.m. EST, I will be talking about Lightspeed and Naruto. Feel free to leave me any questions or topics that you'd like me to discuss in the meantime. And in the meantime, of course, thank you again for the 101. Thank you for all of the great conversations